There we go. That's the scene we wanted. What is the crack, everybody? Welcome back to the Arcane Pain, and today we are finally here talking about our 30 years of Mortal Kombat, starting all the way back from 1992 when it originally released to today. From all our stuff, so we'll be talking with some of the lads now in just a hot second, but we wanted to do just a really quick one. I want to say to the guys, thank you so much all for tuning in, and thank you for some of the lads who are helping me out with this right now. But oh my god, guys, 30 years is crazy. I feel so old. Yeah, so the plan is we're going to be basically bringing the lads in a second. We're going to be talking about our own personal experiences. We're not going to be going into every little small detail in terms of like names, and we'll obviously be mentioning the main names and stuff like that. But anyway, if the lads know names and all, they will be throwing them out, because personally, as well as I say, I consider myself a massive fan and stuff like that. I wouldn't know every single little speck of details from these Mortal Kombat, from the Mortal Kombat universe, and say the lads are some of the lads are the same as well. But yes, let's go, as they say. But that is just what the point. So what we're going to do is we're going to hopefully try and only take up maybe about hopefully 2 to max 3 hours of your time. We don't want to be going into too detail, but it's basically going to be our own personal experiences with the games. It's not going to be obviously like as I said, every little small detail and stuff like that. But how or never, we've got ourselves some couple of legends, as they say to themselves, here today. Let me just introduce the first legend and Mortal Kombat person himself. It's Owen from the Galway Gamer. What is up, Owen?
What's happening, Michael? It's glad to hear from you.
Not too bad. And thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it. And also the man, the myth, well, one of them, the legend, Petso.
Petso
from the Allcast Irish Gamers.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you guys so much for going on. So, guys, Jesus, 30 years. Did anybody expect we'd be here 30 years later talking about Mortal Kombat?
No, I didn't think I'd last 30 years. Never mind the game.
I'm glad to win that.
Oh my god. Without just kind of going into a little bit of small talk anyway, we'll kind of dive into like a bit of our history questions first of all. I got a few questions anyway to take up, so if you guys have any funny stories and stuff while you're telling when you're answering some questions at all, feel free to throw them out there, because as I said, this is our own personal experience with 30 years of MK. I'll start off. We'll just dive straight into it if that's all right with you guys. The first question we have is, what I'll do is I tend to ramble, so I'll let you guys answer first, and then I'll answer last. So that's probably the best thing to do. So my first question is the obvious question: when and where did your entry to the Mortal Kombat universe begin? Where did you first ever hear of Mortal Kombat? Petso, you go first.
Me first. Okay. So the first time I ever seen Mortal Kombat was there's an arcade in Skerries beside the beach, and they used to have like waltzers and like bumper cars and stuff like that. And during the summer, on the outside of the arcade, they'd have all these machines everywhere. And there used to be one machine that used to be swamped with people, and you would hear fatality and all the rest of it. And we were too young and too small to play, and there's no way the big kids would let us play it. So we used to hang around to just watch the fights. And it was the very first Mortal Kombat, and it was just awesome because it was the first game I ever seen with blood in it. And when some of the guys used to be able to pull off some of the fatalities and stuff like that, so we used to hang around the back, stand on each other's shoulders, trying to see the screen. And I remember they used to do like a 20 pence day, and you could get on all the rides for like 20 pence. That's how old this was.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, that's what we'd end up doing. We'd end up spending our couple of pound we had, and then we'd go watch people play Mortal Kombat for the afternoon. It was very, very good. But yeah, that's the first time I ever witnessed anything like that.
And was this the original first Mortal Kombat? Yeah.
Yeah. This would have been very early 90s. Yeah,
Very cool. Oh, and you're saying how's your very first entry into the whole series?
It's kind of a double whammy for me, because I remember running late for school one day and there being a bit of a chat show on that morning, or maybe the news, something to that effect. One of these don't let your kids play these video games kind of thing, and they were showing footage of Mortal Kombat, and I remember them showing footage of Scorpion fatality. He takes off the mask and toasts someone completely, and all that's left is the bones there. And I remember thinking, wow, that's kind of cool. But a little while after that, then I ended up at one of my mate's birthday parties. I couldn't tell you what age. We must have been about 10 thereabouts, but he had a Mega Drive. So the Mega Drive version of MK1 had the blood code, so he knew how to type in the blood code, all that kind of stuff. And I remember him throwing the spear and hitting, I think it was Johnny Cage, and dragging Johnny over to him, and there being this splatter of blood. Now, they knocks him an uppercut right under the chin, and I remember thinking it was so real that I actually felt physically sick watching it. I was like, oh my God. I
Yeah.
somehow fell in love with it at the same time.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It was nuts. It's nuts looking back now, all these years later, and thinking that was the most realistic thing on the market at the time. That kind of way. It's crazy.
And I think that's because of the graphics as well, isn't it? Because they were real people.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
They
you
used
know.
digitized sprites of real actual actors on
Yeah.
a blue screen, if I'm not mistaken, capturing them, do various moves and stuff like that, and then putting them inside the game. So I think that was more. Like, I mean, at the time you also had Street Fighter, but that was all kind of like artist drawn characters and stuff, and it obviously wasn't
Mm.
as bloody and stuff. So do you guys do, like, honestly, like, honest opinions here, do you guys think it was because of the blood and the fatalities as why it was so popular back in the day?
I don't know if it was just because of the blood. Like the fights and stuff was something we hadn't seen yet. Like we had. I think Street Fighter was out already. Tekken probably wasn't. It was just around the corner, not out yet. I think it was just something brand new. And at the time, every game that came out was like, "Whoa, look at this!"
Yeah. True.
It was just this. Everything was so different every time something new came out. But I think the blood just helped it because I don't know. That's what we liked. But like in the 90s, every Arnold Schwarzenegger film had a load of gore and blood. RoboCop, all them, completely like over the top gore. And I think that was just the time and the era of it as well.
Mm.
I think the blood and gore definitely helped. It helped because it gave it a ton of free marketing, if nothing else. But
Yeah.
it gave it, yeah, it gave it this edgy feel though, like almost I shouldn't be playing this, that kind of way.
Mm.
But I don't think it was all down to blood and gore. I think the characters were really appealing. And especially, I know it's the obvious one from MK1 being Scorpion and Sub-Zero, but the fact that they were masked and had this mystery to them, I think also had a big draw. Like you look at Street Fighter, and like I'm a huge Street Fighter fan, don't get me wrong. And I love the characters within, but they're all right there in front of you. They're easy to take apart and analyze. But over in MK, then it was something a bit different. You had this like Thunder God. You had these ninjas with skulls under their masks. You know what I mean? You had Kano, who's a terrorist. And it was just so different to everything else on the market at the time.
Yeah.
I think the story, yeah, the def like now. I suppose not when the first one came out, but like now that we're on 11, well, Mortal Kombat 11, the story is so gripping and all the characters there's a lot of thought process and a lot of love put into each and every character, their
Mhm.
backstory, where they're from, who they hate, who they like. Everything that's there just makes up something beautiful. And I think in the first one it was like that. I think our own imagination was nearly creating that based off the first one and how kind of it didn't have a whole lot of story there, but we were able to make the rest of it up nearly ourselves. And then when the second and third one came out, they were obviously pushed the story a whole like 10 times more. Like, but it is just a rip off of one of the Bruce Lee films, isn't it? It's Enter the Dragon or something.
Yes,
Where
they
they go,
did. They wanted to do a video game on that based on Jean-Claude Van Damme and all. But then I think that whole thing just turned into Mortal Kombat
yeah, because
afterwards.
that film is pretty much Mortal Kombat, but with Bruce Lee in it.
Yeah.
Look at
As
the later games, you've actually got a character that's very, very similar to one of the characters from Enter the Dragon. Dairo, I believe his name is. No, Darius, sorry.
Yeah.
And he's even got an alternate costume that looks straight out of Enter the Dragon as a little kind of a tip of the hat to where they got their inspiration.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely, yeah. I'm loving it. But in regards to myself's first like entry to the universe, anyway, I think I was about 3.5 years old. I came, and I think I was at Crash or Junior Infants. I came home anyway, and I walked into the kitchen, and there's my dad holding like a plastic bag, and he's like, "Yeah, one of the lads in work said he didn't want this," and I said, "Oh, you take it. So do you want to set it up?" I was like, "What is it?" And it was a Sega. And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah!" I was like, "Give me that." So obviously, never knew what it was or anything at the time because it was so new to me. So we plugged it into the TV anyway. I think the first game I played, it was like a triple pack, and one of the games was Columns, and then obviously Streets of Rage was one of them as well. And then I think Golden Axe was one of them. But then obviously Sonic was the second game after that I played in. But then I eventually got to this one and I looked at it and it had a cool dragon logo on the front of it. And obviously it said Mortal Kombat. And I was like, "Ooh, what's this?" So I popped it in anyway. Now, I didn't know the blood cheat code at the time. However, though, I was very intrigued with ninjas and all at the time, obviously, because I was a kid. So, it was all new to me and stuff like that. So, I think the very first character I went for straight away was Sub-Zero because, ninjas and stuff like that. And played it. Obviously, didn't know any of the special moves, knew nothing about it. Played it, and then, like, about a couple of weeks later, anyway, I thought it was like I was like, all right, this is neat, this is pretty cool, it's a cool fighting game. I'll play that a bit more. But then it was a couple of weeks later, I got my first gaming magazine, I think it was, and it had a book of Mortal Kombat like moves and stuff, and that's pretty much where I kind of got the whole being able to do an ice, the ice ball from Sub-Zero or spear from Scorpion, and I was like, okay, this is getting so much more intense, and I'm loving it right now. And then I think it was the summer after, it was about a year after that, we went to summer camp down in the country, and one of the guys was like a big Mortal Kombat fan as well. He's been playing it on Sega, but he was older than me. He was the coach of the thing, like. And he says to me, he was like, "So have you tried the blood code yet?" And I was like, "The what?" And he's like, "Yeah, the blood code." And I was like, "No." I'm intrigued. Let me tell me. And he basically told me exactly how to do it. So I went home then that night, and lo and behold, A B A C A B B. You get the whole words turning red. He goes, "Nick, get over here," and then it just says now entering combat, and then that just changed the entire thing for me because obviously the book told me how to do the fatalities, but when Kano ripped out the heart, it was just a blob of grey. And you were like, what does he have in his hand? I don't know what that is. But then when you turn the blood code on and he rips out the heart, it beats, it drips blood, and it's red. And you're like, holy shit, he just ripped his heart out. And then obviously the most one, I think that one that kind of captured everyone was Sub-Zero's, which kind of blew my mind when he pretty much just ripped off the entire head of his opponent. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I was like, this is just skyrocketed my expectations, and I loved it to bits, and I was hooked.
Nice. Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite fatalities is Sub-Zero, the original one from MK1 with the spine dangling out of the skull. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
Quickly, to speak of fatalities, though, to kind of give you guys, let's say, a little bit of a list here to shoot off some questions. What would be your best? What would be your worst? And what, in your opinion, would be probably the most sickest fatality you've ever seen? Owen, I'll go with you on this one.
Worst is easy. Worst is Quan Chi in Deadly Alliance. He jumps up on your shoulders, he tugs on your head, and he just kind of stretches your neck, and you kind of look like an anthropomorphic giraffe, and you fall over, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Sick ones then, there's a couple of, especially over the last couple of years, there've been a couple of really, really heavy ones. Devora's Bug Baby in MK11.
Yeah.
That's really gruesome. Noob Saibot in MK9, the reboot in 2011, where he doubles himself. Each one grabs one of your legs and splits you in two from the groin up.
Yeah.
Oh my word, that's heavy. Like, one of my personal favorites is probably Sub-Zero in, I'm going to say, Deception, where he freezes your legs and he shatters your legs and you fall down and you start to back up on your hands to try and get away from him, even though you're just a torso. You're bleeding out all over the ground. He just kind of stalks after you for a couple of steps and stands on your head, and it's just a terrifying, terrifying concept. That's got to be one of my favorites. I don't know what my all-time favorite would be because Jeez, we could be here all day with that. Like
Yeah.
Shang
Yeah,
Tsung
true.
Kintaro back
Yeah.
in MK2.
Mm.
That's absolutely brilliant. Quan Chi when he beat you to death with your own leg,
Yeah.
with the soggy end of your own leg. There are so many amazing and creative ways to kill a man in these games that it's completely ridiculous. But I couldn't put my finger on my all-time favorite, but there are definitely a few the standouts for me.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. What about
My
you? What about you, Hezo?
So one of the ones that used to make me feel sick, it was actually one of the latest games. I think it was Garrus. When he pushed them against the wall, he kind of peels them from the fingertips or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what he does. He kind of like brends their thumb or something and then peels them. And I think it was the other person's expression. If you picked if he was doing that on Sonya or Cassie Cage, their expression of pure horror as he peeled away their skin always made me feel a little bit, oh god, that's a little bit too much. I'd also agree with Noob Saibot's one where he rips them in half. I felt that same, like, oh Jesus, what a way to go. The worst one for me was always, it's funny, my favorite characters are Kano and Reptile, and those two have really bad fatalities that like upset me. Like most of Reptiles always are like, I just feel like he could do so much more, and his is usually pretty bad. And Kano, my favorite one would probably be Kano's. I think that one in the latest game, even though I love the heart pull out because that's iconic, and he has to have that in every game, even if it's a brutality. I love the one where he smashes the bottle into their neck and then he dances with them, and the blood is just coming out of the bottle. I just feel like it's very Joker-esque. And it's just his playful character. He's killing them in a brutal way, but he's being playful about it, and that's why I like the character and stuff as well. So yeah, I think Kano and Reptile would probably be my worst fatalities in the
Picture
series.
this
And I was,
Kano's other fatality in MK11 though, where he nails you to the ground and headbutts you till your face is just mush. That was
yeah,
really, really harsh, man. My word.
yeah, I just felt like Kano could do so much more with all the gadgets and gizmos he has on him. I just feel like headbutting was, I don't know, that could have been a brutality. I think I'd love to see him
It's
just let.
scumbaggery though. He's the perfect
Yeah,
scumbag. I think it suits
yeah,
him.
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I just, when it's your favorite character, you just want them to be the
The
best.
best, yeah, exactly, yeah.
I just feel like in my head I could like something where he cuts off their legs with the laser and then headbutts them to death. He just needed a little bit more torture because it was Kano. He's not a quick.
Mm.
He's not going to kill you
Mm.
quickly. He's not one of those type of guys. But yeah, they're my favorite and worst. What about
Yeah,
you, Payne?
I think personally myself, my favorite was always Liu Kang's dragon. Back in MK2,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's just like from MK1 by having the crappiest fatality ever. By the way, he does a flip kick and then uppercuts them. Only if you're on the pit stage does it ever make sense. To going into MK2 and then transforming into a full-on dragon and then biting the top half of torso of the person. It just blew my mind back then, and it's been my favorite ever since. However, I have been just a little bit disappointed in the last few runs where he hasn't been able to do that really since I think MK9. I don't think he was able to do it in MKX. It was just more his outro, wasn't it? He was able to the dragon came up onto his hand or something, or was that 9? I actually can't remember.
They definitely hinted at animalities in 11, and it never really became a thing.
Yeah, I was
But,
just I was kind of thinking to myself if there was like, because the way they cancelled the Combat Pack 3 and all, but they did, the team did say they wanted to work on it for years, and then obviously now this year came up with the 30th anniversary and stuff, and then I'd imagine just the higher ups just said, right, scrap everything. It's the 30th anniversary. Let's milk this and let's go back and let's create another game and let's get it out there quick. I
don't think that. I know we're going off topic now, but I don't think anything's going to come out this year. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. I would say it'll just be teased or something. Come on, Shaolin Monks 2. Anyway, let's say the worst fatality, I think I'd have to agree with Owen, is definitely Quan Chi's one from Deadly Alliance. I think that's a lot of people's worst fatality, is the neck stretch from Quan Chi, because it's so. And I think Ed was actually interviewed about that particular fatality, and he just said like it was just so hilarious at the time. They just wanted to leave it in because it was so stupid. It's so funny. So it's like, okay, fine. He gets a pass for that. But it's still the worst. Still my worst one. And then probably the sickest fatality. Jesus. To be honest, I'm. It takes a lot to really gross me out. So I don't really have one in my head. I think maybe there was actually one. I think you're right. Actually, the Devora one was a bit over like when she pukes in his mouth, and then he just yeah, and then he basically just ends up like the bug comes out. I thought the bug coming out was very cool, but when she vomited in his mouth, I was like, oh god, that just does not look serious. And the way I was like, yeah, you definitely don't want to kiss off her after what she did to Melina anyway. But no, but that's it's very interesting because fatalities are a lot of like a real staple of the series. So it's glad to see what everyone's favorites are like. And if people watching right now, if you guys have any sort of favorites or sickest or even worst fatalities of in your opinions, definitely feel free to type them in on the comments there, just so we can see. Because like as I said, fatalities again is definitely the stepping stone of this series, and it just keeps going above and beyond. However, I do feel there is a threshold that they're gonna reach at some stage, and then it's just gonna be like people are gonna be like either they've done this before, or are they going to do anything new, or it's just going to get terrible. You know what I mean? So unless they can kind of keep it either at a balanced scale of the fatalities to shock us, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think they'd be able to go any higher than what they have now, or do you think they've kind of reached that threshold now?
I
I didn't think. Sorry, Peto, go ahead.
No. Sorry, I was going to say I don't think they've reached like the point where it's too much, but I do think that the audience today is a little bit softer in the sense that they wouldn't accept too much more than what they're already given. But if we had the graphics back in the 90s, you'd see Saw as like it'd be like Final Destination when it came to a fatality. It'd be these horrible, gruesome. Even they said in an interview when 11 came out that they wanted to move away from the torture aspect of the fatality, that they just wanted it to be a finisher. So, and they were much shorter and much sweeter. Well, some of them were in the last, compared to like even 10, where there was a little bit more like, oh, here's a knife to the leg, here's a knife to your other leg, and then we'll finish you off. There was that little bit of torture seemed to disappear from 11. So I think that they might break it down. I know that there was a lot of things about, like, I don't know, they seem to give out a little bit about some of the fatalities in the last game. So I don't know if it will be much tamer next time, but hopefully they don't tame it out. What do you think, Owen?
I think it's kind of hard to say because, like, if you had have asked me back in MK2, for example, could they go any further? I'd say no. This is the limit. This is as high as it can get. And then a couple of years later, they knocked it out of the park and made it even more disgusting and huge. And further and further on down the line, here we are, 30 plus years later, and they're still pushing that bar. I'm wondering if the only thing stopping them from pushing any further is, say, technical difficulties, if you will, and what they can do with the tech. So I'm wondering if we keep advancing the technology, can they keep getting it more and more extreme? Because, like I said, a handful of years ago, I wouldn't have said it could get any more extreme than MKX. A handful of years before that, I would have said the same thing about MK9, when you have, say, Sindel blowing your brains out of your ears with a scream, for example. I'm like, you can't. And they introduced X-rays, and I'm like, no, this is the limit. You can't go further than this. This is insane. And then they keep going. They keep taking it to that next level. So I'm not sure if there is a ceiling on that. You know what I mean? If there is a roof that they can hit, or if they can just keep going forever, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Go on.
So I'd love if the X-rays became a little bit more than, rather than a cutscene that you're watching, they were a bit more customizable. So like if you press, like when they hit with the X-ray, you then had to press a sequence of buttons to do different moves and different animations, and that you can kind of nearly customize your X-ray move. Because when you played that game for like 40, 50 hours, watching the same X-ray over and over again is really boring.
Yeah, going into customizable thing is going to open a whole another can of worms. That
Yeah.
will be we will be talking about that a little bit. But anyway, let's go on to the next question. Anyway, finished up with the fatalities and stuff. Actually, just to point on one thing that you said there, Owen, about tech, didn't they've been on Unreal Engine 3 as far as I know for the last few games, and then they've upgraded finally to Unreal Engine 4, even though Unreal Engine 5 is now officially out. But I think they said the next one they're going to upgrade to Engine 4. So from the games that you guys have experienced on Unreal Engine 4, which has pretty much been the majority of the games that we've gotten out so far these days, do you see it getting any more crisper, any more bloodier, any more like over the top, etc., that type of thing? You know what I mean?
I
I
don't
mean,
think so at the moment. I think if they pushed it to Unreal 5, then very, very possibly. Like, you look at even the latest Tomb Raider got announced there very recently, and Lara moving to Unreal 5.
Yeah.
But if you look at Unreal 4 and where it is at the moment, and the fact that it's about to be eclipsed, they should definitely move with that eclipse. If not, it just won't be as graphic as other games on the market.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, very true.
Like there's a big jump between 9 and 10 and X. Like the graphics wise, I felt jumped. Like 9 is still a little bit blocky, but it's still brilliant. Like 9's probably one of the better remakes they've done. But 10 looks phenomenal. 11 looks phenomenal. I can only imagine. Even if like the next game looked like 11, I'd still be on board. So, like 11 was beautiful, even though it wasn't my favorite of the franchise. Like 11 was a beautiful game.
Exactly, yeah. And speaking of the graphics of 9, actually, I don't know if anyone's seen today on Twitter. I think was it Tabmog or one of the MK big hire guys in the community shared a particular scene of, remember when Shao Kahn was giving out the katana in the throne room in MK9, and there's a part where her breast goes very small to very big. It just kind of like pops out. And I was like, yep, that's the tech there.
Yeah.
There's the blocky tech again.
Did you
Sign
guys
of the times right there.
did you guys think that they so one of the controversies, I know we're not there yet, Payne. I'm kind of skipping ahead, but I'd love to hear what you think
keep
about
going,
this. When 9 came out, the girls were all wearing pretty skimpy gear, and there was a bit of controversy about that, how like lads wearing armor are completely covered in armor and girls wearing armor are in their bra and panties, and there was a little bit of controversy. And then when 10 and especially 11 came out, the girls were fully dressed up and they weren't really looking like they used to look in the, like, going back to Mortal Kombat 1 and stuff like that. Do you think do you think that is a social thing, or do you think they'll go back to that? Or like in number 9, I think Melina is just wearing like toilet paper in one of her outfits.
That's one of her outfits, yeah. I think
Bandages, from the flash pits.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like obviously, like I know, like look, times are different to the 90s and stuff like that now. So where do you think they'll go back to those kind of outfits, or do you think we'll just have to get used to?
Well, you have to remember, like, if you look at Liu Kang, he's completely shirtless. You know what I mean? He's got on is his tracksuit bottoms and his shoes. And like, I know, fair enough, like the women's have like the top part majority covered, and then it would get like to the sexy stuff down towards their legs and all. I think a lot of people were saying that, like don't get me wrong, like the costumes in MK9 were fine. Like in my opinion, I didn't see anything, like I wasn't looking at them in a sexual way or something like that. That's just how we've seen them since the very first MK, and we've never really thought about that particular thing. Do you know what I mean? Saying, "Oh, they're not wearing like this so much clothes, so they're going to get hurt as easily." But then you're looking at these guys like Jax back in the day, Jax, Liu Kang, let's say Shang Tsung. They also had hardly any. Yeah, Johnny Cage. They all had hardly any clothes on them anywhere. Like definitely like up there. But then everyone's kind of making the whole assumption that like, oh, you know, it's just to show off their muscles, to show how big they are and stuff like that. It's just like, I mean, you do that with the same thing. Like, look at Jade now. Like, you could see the like the abs on Jade and stuff like that in MK9 and all as well. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Because I like all their outfits in the sense of, I think, of ninjas and fighting, and I think all the girls look like ninjas and stuff like that. And then when they have all the, like Cassie Cage with all her sort of soldier gear on suits her. Same with Sonya Blade. But at the same time, I don't want to give Katana like military armor. It doesn't suit that character from when I grew up. You
Mm.
know that, like, and that's how I feel. Like I don't sexualize these characters. I love these characters for story and gameplay. And I hate the fact that there's even an argument that they're too skimpy, so now we have to put more clothes on them. And all in all, possibly ruin the character.
I
Yeah.
think the idea of sexualizing Mortal Kombat characters is a bizarre concept to begin
Yeah,
with, because we are talking about characters that you play a game where you see these characters beat up to a pulp and dismembered. If you want those characters sexualized, then I think there's a big issue. You know what I mean? I really do. But you were saying about military armor on Katana. I couldn't see that happening. Katana's not military; she's a princess, so she
exactly.
dresses like so. You know what I mean? But yes, over the last couple of years, we have definitely seen more clothes on the ladies, and I'm all for it. I think it's cool. I think Jackie Briggs, for example, when she came in Mortal
Yeah,
Kombat X, she is completely covered in head to toe, and she's the coolest character in the damn game. You
that's
know what I
true.
mean? She looks fantastic. She sounds fantastic. She's a military genius. You know what I mean? She beat up who is it? Is it Reptile?
Yeah,
Reptile, Kotal Khan, and Ermac, three of the Outworld's biggest, baddest, badasses
yeah.
in a row in the story. You know what I mean? I'm like, this girl's insane. I absolutely love her. And I never thought to myself, but she'd be better if I could see her thighs, because it just doesn't appeal
Yeah.
to me at
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
That's why I
Yeah.
feel like if people who are over sexualized characters are ruining the characters for the new people coming into the series, so people who haven't played the first game, the first like 6 games, I think I think changing their outfits and stuff to suit social aspect, like social expectations of what these characters should be wearing, I think ruins the characters and their lore. You know, if they're a princess from another realm, they're not necessarily going to be fully clothed. You know, but that's not what we need. We like it's all we care about is her throwing her fans and beating the crap out of people.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Because
do
like,
think they have to stick with the times nonetheless, though. You
yeah,
know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If you're still cranking it out like it looked in 1992, you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
a kind of a different ball game. You have to keep your character somewhat contemporary. You
sure.
know, but you even seen in the likes of I know we're going back a couple of years now, but the likes of the Prince of Persia games, for example, on PS2, you know, where although he was a print of a long, long time ago, he still had a bit of modern day charm to him, because you have to keep it contemporary, because you have to keep people's attention that way. And I think the same thing goes for the outfits.
Right.
mm.
Yeah, agree. Sorry, Payne, I kidnapped your podcaster.
No, you're good. No, that's like, I mean, it's a very important topic to think about. Like, really, especially like, I mean, you're they're saying Katana with full on military gear on, and it's 100% not her. She is a princess. However, there is outfits to work around that. You don't have to give her blue suit. Like, it could be a secret like outfit to unlock or something, like her original blue like outfit and stuff like that. However, like you think of like princess clothes in general. Do you know that sort of way? Like you could have her
Yeah,
dressed up like in all kind of silk and veil and stuff like that, and she'd still be Katana to us. It's just
I
when you
just want
takes go on.
I just want them to, like, when I see the character, I can go, that's Katana, that's
Yeah.
Melina. You know, that's those people, and I don't have to go, who's that dressed up?
Mm.
You know what I mean? I still want them to keep, like, if, like, you know, when you're editing like Sub Zero's costumes, some of them can look a little bit like Reptile, or some of them can look a little bit like, especially Mortal Kombat 11, where it was very
Mhm.
customizable. You could make him look like a completely different character. I didn't like that. I
Mm.
like his blue and black. You know,
Yeah.
that's Sub Zero for me. You know, so like if they suddenly went, look, we can't have say Sonya Blade's belly hanging out anymore, and she's always wore cut, like those kind of cut tops, and she suddenly wore this huge big, you know, bomb-proof jacket. It'd be like, it would just seem odd, and that's what I'm getting at. Is I'm like, I don't want them to change my characters. I don't mind if they put more, like, they're wearing armor, but it's still the same color scheme as what we know them as. But at the same time, people arguing that like the women are overly sexualized compared to the men. I don't agree with that because as you guys have pointed out already, like half the guys have their tops off.
Mhm.
So I just that's just my thing. It's just I just don't want them to ruin the characters in like future games because of what we're meant to perceive fighters as or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Katana's been mentioned a couple of times there, lads. I just want to give a shout out and say that I think she looked absolutely dope in MK11.
She did.
I loved it. I
She
loved
did.
the boys
Yeah.
carrying her in on the throne. I thought she was
Mm.
magnificent.
She's brilliant. She's such a good. She's one of the strongest female characters in the game. I think. Sonya Blade is a little bit too much. I think they've kind of drilled her into the ground where she's just like overly America.
Yeah.
I think Katana has a little bit more to her, a little bit more story, a little bit more character. Melina is kind of the same. I love that they brought Devora back from the last game and brought her forward because she was such a big impact as well. I don't like Cassie Cage. I never liked her at all. I do Jax's daughter. I forgot her name. You said it a second ago. Jackie, sorry. Yeah, she's very good. And her move set was so different to everything else. There was nothing similar. Or I didn't find it very similar to anything else that they've done before as well. Sorry, Payne, go on with your question. Sorry,
No, you're good. Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, this is good. This is good though. Like, I like the way we were talking off a bit more anyway. But like, you want to try and get everything in on it. I suppose my next question anyway though is given the story from all the way up from MK1 all the way up to MK11 now, what would what would probably be your favorite moment of said story up till now? So it could be a scene, it could be like an entire game, but like, do you have a particular moment from the story, from the old story or even the new story that you have just loved and adored? Petso, go.
Me first. I loved that. What's the game where they all fight each other on the bleeding pyramid?
Armageddon.
Armageddon. I'm sorry, I was going to say something else. Armageddon. That cutscene where they're all kicking the head off each other on the pyramid is absolutely phenomenal. I don't think anything's got close to that for me. Like, that was just epic. The first time I watched that, I was like absolutely bricking myself. I was like, holy crap, who's going to get this? Like, it was just amazing. It's just such a good cut. It's probably still the best cutscene they've ever put together in my mind, anyway. Every single character was there. There was fatalities and deaths and fight scenes and action, and it's just non-stop. That one cutscene when they're going up that pyramid is phenomenal. The game itself wasn't great, but that cutscene was very, very good.
Alan?
Big shout out to that cutscene actually. Yeah, but I had one of my favorite moments in it, and that's when the voiceover guy says something about old rivalries being revived, and the camera pans behind Shang Tsung, and zombie Liu Kang is there. Oh my god! It's amazing. That entire scene though, is magnificent. Kentaro growling at the start, and all of the bad guys charging forward like a Braveheart movie from behind him. Spectacular. I love that. I think the cutscenes during the PS2 era in general were absolutely brilliant. The one from the start of Deception was brilliant as well, where Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, the Deadly Alliance, are fighting against Raiden, and then Onaga comes in, and you're like, who and what is this? Oh my god! But I think my favorite cutscene, my favorite story, all in all, would be Mortal Kombat 2 as a game. The entire story wrapped around that.
Right.
But my favorite cutscene would be in MK9 when all the Earth Realmers are pretty much putting together a final plan to take out Shao Kahn, and Sindel walks in. Murders half the cast. I remember.
It's really good.
Word! I remember sitting there and thinking, there's no one left. There is not. She just killed everyone. Oh my god! What? Nightwolf got away. One or two others. That was about it. Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade maybe. I'm like, she's straight taking them out one by one like they're nothing. And it's like watching the Avengers fall. You know what I mean? It's incredible.
It's a great scene. I was impressed by that scene because I knew Sindel was powerful, but they've never shown her off to be as powerful as she is, and that scene really does. She kicks the crap out of everyone. It's brilliant. It's very well
I
put
I
together.
definitely share that with you. Oh, and that is definitely a jaw-dropping scene for myself, and probably my favorite of the scene. It's just so unexpected. Now, you say she's never been seen in that power before. You do have to remember, Shao Kahn did take Shang Tsung's soul and give it to her to amplify her power. So I think that's more or
Hmm.
less why she's never really been seen as that powerful, because at that
Right.
particular moment she had Shang Tsung's like pretty much like a let's say power boost to kick the
She was
crap out of
supercharged.
everybody. Supercharged, exactly. And then Nightwolf took her out. But like, no, yeah, that was I was like, okay, she's coming in. What's gonna happen? They're gonna like have a little bit of a tussle, and maybe Katana might say something to get Sindel back in the fray. No, she kills everybody, the majority of them anyway. And then that was that was the beginning of when Sindel's character just had to go downhill after that, because of the whole I was never mind controlled, I wanted this. It's like, but we'll get to that later anyway. That's, yeah, no, that 100%, like that and I will agree with you, Peto, as well. That Armageddon scene was amazing. I loved it. I didn't think, like, I loved the Deception intro as much as that, but then you think they're not going to do anything better than that, but then they had the entire cast fighting and then using their various powers and stuff like that, and then
The
just
Shaolin Monk's intro was great too.
Shaolin Monks, yes, it was. They did the same thing as Zell. They had all their powers stuff going as well. But I think the funniest part, actually, of the Armageddon scene was literally when the pyramid rose and Johnny was just standing there looking, and then Sonya's beside him, and Johnny just smacks him, or smacks Sonya. Isn't it Sonya? Straight in the face, and starts running up the pyramid out of nowhere.
I
Yeah.
think it's Melina and Stryker. I think Stryker's looking up and Melina slaps him and runs, from what I can recall. If I'm not
Massive.
mistaken.
Right,
I
okay.
could be completely wrong. I think it's Melina and Stryker, yeah.
It's been a while, but yeah, no, it's definitely someone. It was just literally like
It's
total silence. Next minute, boom, and then running up the thing out of nowhere, because they didn't know what they were running towards. You know what I mean? They were just in this big chasm fighting, and then they just looked up and saw this light, and they're like, "Screw it! I'm going to run towards that now."
Striker, or it's the guy with all the dots on him.
Mocap.
Mocap.
The mocap, yeah.
Mocap,
Even to
isn't
have
he? It was
Mocap there
wonderful.
was so funny. He was in the background, wasn't he?
Striker, yeah. It's Striker and Melina, yeah. I'm looking at it here now.
Striking him again. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, to go on to the next one. Where are we? So as I think we've kind of already kind of touched on that. My next question was going to be like any funny or shocking moments that you can think of. We kind of maybe just delved on that there, really, with the with Sindel coming in, and then it's just the funny things. Oh yeah, okay. So here's one, right? So if Mortal Kombat was to go for another 30 years, do you feel it's going to stay as strong as it is today, or do you think like if they keep going the way they're going at like right now, people will kind of get bored? Because like, to throw in my own personal opinion here, I love Mortal Kombat with all my heart and stuff like that, but the way they've sacrificed a lot of the funny stuff and the mini games and all, and focused too much on esports, it's kind of killing the game, in my opinion. Like, I loved the new crypt, the way you could go around with the crypt and you had the hammer. It was like God of War in a way, like the way the camera was behind them and all the secrets and stuff. And the same with the crypt and the likes of X, and the same with the crypt and the kind of 9 as well. All sorts of like fun stuff and all. But ever since 9, there's not as much stuff that you can unlock. Like, do you remember Cooking with Scorpion? You remember all these like funny like ads for various products and stuff back in the Midway days? And now Warner Brothers has it now, but I just feel they're focusing too much on esports, in my own personal opinion. I just feel like, don't get me wrong, esports is a big thing with fighting games. And I was like, yes, fair enough, do esports. But you're missing the heart and soul of what Mortal Kombat was. And it was just a literally like having the crack, taking the piss. That was where, that was where friendships came in. That's where animalities came in, brutalities. It was all just over the top and like just having, and then Mortal Kombat and chess combat, it was just all crazy stuff. But now it's just getting too serious, in my opinion.
The thing is that like in the 90s, there was a lot of work that went into the game, and then when they were finished the game, they probably had a month or two left before the game released. So they were like, oh, I wonder what else we could add, because there was a time in technology where they didn't quite know what they could and couldn't do. So they were like, what if we filmed this with like Cooking with Scorpion for a laugh and put it in as a hidden video, and then just adding it to the code. Where now it's like projects, and They know what they're going to do from the very first day they start to the very last day. There's a more of a business behind it,
Mm.
and esports is a huge money maker for fighting games.
Mm.
And there's literally, if you're making a fighting game and it's not going to go into esports, then there's no point making the game. Like, and there's a lot of games like that right now. It's like battle royales. Like, they don't make battle royale games for fun. They make them for esports.
It's true, but
Um,
they are focusing too much on online though, because
yeah, I agree.
if you think about it, like a lot of these really cool looking costumes and stuff that came out, you have to go online and fight against other people in this combat league and stuff. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'm crap playing against like online playing against people. Petsa, you know this better than anyone because you've kicked my
I
ass a couple of
yeah.
times. But
I don't
like.
think you've ever bet me, have you?
It's once to ones race now, but I swear it was the connection. But anyway, but that's it. Like you want to be able to go on and be able to get these really cool looking costumes and stuff, an alternate way than going into the combat league and like
But
taking on these way too more professional players than yourself. Really, do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but they did add a lot of things. Like they have the time towers and the regular towers. They have the whole story mode. They did DLC for the story mode. Like they have the massive crypt that was in 11 is like probably one of the best crypts they've done. Um, I don't know what other single player stuff they could possibly add to it. The only thing I would like to add it to it is a tower that is a story based tower for every character. So every fight on the way up the tower is a story, like as if you're doing a
Oh,
Mortal
story
Kombat,
match.
as if you're doing a Mortal Kombat tournament as that character and that
Yeah.
That'd be
character's
cool.
story through the tournament. Like so that way you would have, if you have 32 characters, you've got 32 stories to play through. Not just here's your next fight, here's your next fight, here's your next fight. There's like a little cut scene or a little bit of banter between the like a theme between each one to get to why they want to win Mortal Kombat and what they gain when they win Mortal
Oh,
Kombat.
so
Not
kind
just,
of like the standard arcade ladder for each character, except a bit more evolved in terms of like the way
themes and
the way like I think
character building.
The way Killer Instinct and Street Fighter had it, where towards the end before the final fight, you went up against your rival in the tournament, and you were like,
Yeah,
oh, like it's yourself, and depending on what you did, if you actually like properly killed him, you got a different ending at the end, or if you didn't kill him, like he'd
something
come back
like
for
that. Yeah,
revenge. Yeah, I
that's
get you.
the
Yeah.
only thing. That's the only thing I can think of that they could add to the game, because 11 had a load of single player stuff to the point where when I finished it all, I was like, I'm done with this game, and I'm not a big online player. I did play a few, like a little bit online to unlock, as you said, to unlock some skins. But that made me want to play it online because I wanted the skins. Like when St. Patrick's Day skins came out and they were all green and black, I wanted all my characters in green and black.
Mm.
So I was playing online for that. So like there is, I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to get people to leave single player and go online to experience it, because some people won't even click that multiplayer button.
Oh yeah, well
They'll just play.
I'm not saying don't go online altogether, but I just wish there was an alternative way of getting stuff for the people who just can't seem to get
Yeah.
past it. Like, do you know what I mean? I mean, I've also seen a lot of these YouTube videos of people going on and these, people complaining about zoners and stuff like that. If people just going on one side of the screen and just you keep using the gun against them, and you get that, and it gets infuriating. But if, like you said, if there was a tower, like a timed tower to go in and say, oh, get, like you said, the St. Patrick's Day, the green and black skins.
Yeah.
Like you go on and say, oh, this tower is free for Aaron Black's green and black skin. Finish this to get Aaron Black's, and then like it changes every 5 or 6 hours to a different character. Yeah, that would be fine. But I just didn't wish this was the only way to get them, is having to go online. Do you know what I mean?
The only thing I could think of to add to it is custom towers. Like, so you pick Jax, and it's like, this is Jax's experience in the Mortal Kombat tournament, and it's from fight 1 to fight 12, and it's all these different interactions. Maybe there's an extra fight in between fight 10 and fight 11 because, Kano's not happy that he got this far in the tournament, so now he has to fight Kano on top of, and whatever damage is left after Kano, he has to carry into the next fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now you're creating little mini stories between all the characters and all the towers, and then you've got the main story as well, which is all like much more obviously dialogue based and stuff like that. Like that's the only thing I can think they can add to it that would make it more interesting and more compelling. I remember Twisted Metal when that first came out. Every car you picked had its own story up until the end, and then Calypso was the main guy. He used to give you your free wish, but the wish was always like twisted. So if they were like, "Oh, I wish to be the richest person in the world," he'd kill everyone in the world. You'd be the richest person in the world then. So
Right.
you know that way. So he'd always
Yeah.
have some like. So the whole story up to that, and then the whole like kicking the balls at the end was just very very good. And I think Mortal Kombat needs to go do something like that. Like
But the old Twisted Metal, in fairness, didn't do in between stories. I know they did in
no,
Twisted
it's
Metal
true. Yeah,
Black. They had the intro, the middle, and the outro. Not over here in the EU, but they did in the American release.
yeah,
Over here in the EU, we got absolutely shafted when it comes to Twisted Metal. Unfortunately, I could bang
yeah.
on about that for days, but I won't. But so
Black was great.
at its core, what it had was exactly the same as what fighting games were doing at the time. You
Mm.
picked a character, you read the character's backstory, and they gave you an ending for that character. It was pretty much the same as what Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and everything else was doing on the fighting scene. You know, but I think that you guys are saying that they've taken away a few bits and pieces here and there, and they definitely have. We don't have the silly little bit to crack on the side. We don't have Mortal
Yeah,
Kombat. I'd love to see Puzzle Combat coming back. I love that.
yeah.
I think a fully fleshed out version of Chess Combat as an actual side
Oh,
game where I could just go into a shop and buy Chess Combat. I would
just
do
coming.
that instantly.
Yeah.
But yet they have taken these things away, but they have replaced them with the best story mode in
Yeah,
the history of fighting games, to
yeah,
a point where everything else in the genre is clambering to catch up with what Mortal Kombat is doing in the story, and everything else is tripping over itself and making a mess while doing it.
yeah.
Look at the Tekken story, look at the
Hmm.
Street Fighter stories. They're almost embarrassing to watch in
Oh,
comparison.
yeah.
So I know we don't have these little bits and pieces like you mentioned, cooking with Scorpion, or I loved in Deadly Alliance in the Crypt when each different character had one little JPEG that you'd unlock of them doing something silly, like you had dermatology gel for Reptile, for example. You had Quan Chi playing the saxophone. You had a book of poems from Cyrax about what it's like to be a soulless robot. That kind of. I love that stuff. Absolutely
Yeah,
love it. But what we got in exchange for that, this fully fleshed out story that we've had now for the 3 days games, I think
yeah.
is well worth it.
Stories that are better than the movies. And I don't know
Big
Yeah.
time,
how.
big
I don't know
time.
how movies just don't copy the story from the game. But no, like yeah,
Yeah. We'll get
yeah.
to, we'll get to the
I
movies later.
I think there's plenty of one-player stuff in the games now. I think when 9 came out, I felt a bit like, oh, that's me finished with the game. But 10 and 11 had a lot more story, and 11 even with the extra DLC storyline. Like I think they did
Mhm.
everything they possibly could for single players for those two games.
Except for like they leave out test your might and test your sight and test your luck.
Just right, bring it back. I love the fact that Kenshi used to listen to it because he couldn't
Yeah.
see. I
That
thought
was
that
that
was
was a
such a
very
good
good
touch.
detail.
Yeah. But what I will say though is like how did Kenshi and Reptile not make it into 11?
Well, Kenshi was dead in the
I don't.
crypt, if you don't remember
That's
that.
right, he was. Yeah.
And then Reptile was just being a coward hiding in the crypt. So there's your answers there.
Well, I
um,
suppose Reptile kind of he follows pretty much anybody who's in charge. So I guess if anybody doesn't want Reptile, then he's got nothing to do. He is a servant, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he was probably just a bit bored. He was probably playing Street Fighter, you know.
Chronica was looking at him going, I don't want this lizard anywhere near me, so I don't want to change.
Yeah.
I will admit then, like, yeah, fair enough, the story is so much fleshed out and stuff like that. However, to go and play something as cool as Conquest in Deception and Armageddon, and then just to kind of like, I was kind of hoping that the crypt in MK11 was cool, but if they had have expanded it a little bit more, being able to give you like a little bit of a combat type thing, because as you guys know, Sifu, right? That combat game, that martial arts game that came out.
Yeah.
Yes, I haven't
Yeah.
played it, but I am aware of it. Yeah.
If you were if something like that now, if something to give you like an exploration conquest mode that like is very vast, going through the realms and stuff like that, with that kind of combat and the ability to be able to do fatalities and special moves and stuff like that. Now I'm this is probably me just wanting more and more and more, where it's just like the team's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Do you know what I mean? But because like
I
don't
think
get me wrong,
it's
the stories is amazing anyway.
I'd love exactly what you're saying, but at the same time, because of the way the animations are like 20 million times better than Armageddon and DC versus Mortal Kombat,
Yeah,
and like you know what I mean, like it takes teams of lads to do the special effects
exactly. So
of
it's
every
just time
character.
consuming.
Yeah, so I think it just comes down to at the end of the day, like they're like, oh well, you know, if we get finished a month early, maybe we'll throw this into it, and that never happens.
Yeah, like
You know that way.
I'm fair that it would be time consuming and stuff like that, but then everyone's been screaming for a Shaolin Monks 2 for so long, and
That's
Ed
what I was
keeps
thinking. Yeah.
Mm.
teasing the hell out of it. So like I honestly like this is me personally now. I honestly think with the 30-year anniversary, they might have been given the go ahead to do a new kind of Shaolin Monks type game, because like I honestly think in the background now, I think Ed's been literally saying to Warner Brothers like, look at the amount of people who want this particular game, like, you know, it's going to sell so much and stuff like that. But on top of that, they're also going to have some of the team working on a proper fighter-esque for to keep the esports part of it happy and stuff. There was actually a rumor there, I don't know if you guys know, there was a rumor of what MK12 was going to be, but it was apparently going to be MK11.5 or something like that. It was apparently meant to be like you know, the aftermath DLC never happened, and basically Liu Kang restarts the timeline, and then Raiden has to go off and do something. It was basically going to be 11.5, but I think that was total BS, and I'm hoping it was total BS really, because you want to get away from MK11. But like there was also other talks that maybe MK12 would be a continuation of Shang Tsung's ending. Do you guys remember Shang Tsung's ending?
Yeah.
He got the Titans, did he?
Yeah, he basically became his own, the only Titan, and Raiden and Fujin were his servants, saying, "Oh, we've taken Chaos Realm and Outworld, and now we're going to do an Earth Realm, and now we're going to do this, that, and the other." So everyone was
You
like,
know what?
"Oh,
I thought if they did an MK12, now I thought they'd do Injustice did MK12. I thought they would do it as the time because so when at the end, Liu Kang has all the power and he kind of reverses time. I thought they were going to go back to the very first Mortal Kombat because the first game of Mortal Kombat was the 10th tournament.
yeah."
So we haven't seen anything between 1 to 10 of the tournament. So I was like, wouldn't it be really weird if they went back to the very first time the tournament ever happened?
And then what happened?
Raiden was there with Liu Kang's like ancestors and Kung Lao's ancestors, and we got to see a whole new group of characters that we'd never seen before. Maybe similar move sets to what we know, but like different characters. I thought that would be a really nice way of continuing on the story by reversing it all the way back, you know. And then the first game could have been the first 9. Like I'm sure they could write it so it's the first 9 sort of tournaments in a way, you know, like because it's all Goro winning them all, and then we kick back off game 13 is back at number 1 again.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely there to do, because they have like the ending was of Liu Kang's ending was him going back to the Grey Kung Lao and says, "I've got to train you." He's like, "Train you for what?" And then he has that big smirk in his face. So like it is there for them to be able to expand on for MK12. But then also someone was saying like, "Oh, what a perfect time for a new." This is me going back to Shaolin Monks again, because now you can have Fire God Liu Kang and the Grey Kung Lao in a type of adventure-esque type story type thing. But then you're kind of thinking to yourself, but no, like Fire God Liu Kang is just way too OP to be able for anyone to take on as just a normal thing, unless, as you said there, a whole host of new characters come into it, and then we'd have the Grey Kung Lao and then someone else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if Raiden's mortal now, maybe Raiden like could come into it. Do you know, that sort of way? But as a mortal, because now Fire God Liu Kang is obviously the elder god, so maybe it could be that Raiden comes into it as a mortal and goes with Great Kung Lao and does this.
Yeah,
I just spitballing here.
Yeah, no, like I felt like it left it open for a brand new start, like 13 brand new characters and all ancestors of characters we know. Same, maybe similar move sets or but different in the timeline, very different. That way. Like I thought that would be an interesting way of continuing on the story and stuff.
Mm.
Like that might have been just me, because at the same time, the minute that game came out, I'd be, where's Reptile? So I'd be exactly that kind of person that'd be like, where's Kano and Reptile?
What do you think, Owen?
I think they painted themselves into a bit of a corner, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because like they've already done MK1 a number of times. Like,
Yeah.
well, we've seen MK1 play out in MK1, in Sheldon Monks, in MK9. We've seen it play out in the movies. We've seen it play out left, right, and center. Sooner or later, if they restart the timeline once again, which it looks like they will with the Great Kung Lao, they're gonna have to do it again. And as much as I love that story, I have seen it, I've played it, I've done it, I'm done with it. But if you were to do 500 years ago, the Great Kung Lao versus Goro, which is the fight that we've all wanted to see now since we heard about the Great Kung Lao back in the early days,
Yeah.
you're going to have to do a game like Petto said, where it's all original characters, and that's not going to work because then you don't have your Johnny Cage, your Sonya Blade. You'd have Katana because she's 10,000 years old. Maybe Sindel, but most of the base roster, most of the heavy hitters from the early games, the ones that people want in every game, Melina, for example, Cabal, these characters simply can't exist unless you do more timey-wimey nonsense.
Mm.
And I think, unfortunately, they painted themselves into a bit of a corner there. And I kind of saw it coming because near the end of Mortal Kombat 11, Katana unites all the races in Outworld and goes charging into the Netherrealm with Shokins and Tarkatans and everybody on her side, all of our Outworld together as one. And then about half a scene later, about two actual gameplay fights later, Chronica reverses all that, so it never happened. So
Yeah.
I thought to myself there and then, it's going to be hard to believe in anything to do now going forward, considering they can, at the flip of a switch, reverse it. Therefore, how am I going to believe and commit to the story going forward? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
then they did that. They did the Ultimate Edition then with Shang Tsung and Fusion coming in, and it was great. It was a really good story, but again, get reversed all the way back to the start, to the very start this time. I'm thinking, well, how often are they going to pull this switch? And if they
Yeah.
don't, we don't have all our classic characters that, quite frankly, you need for Mortal Kombat to feel like Mortal Kombat. So I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do or how they're going to move forward. Right?
I think you've answered that nearly in yourself, and I'm nearly on board with this. I think they're going to go back to the very first Mortal Kombat one, and it's going to be like, say, 12 characters we've never seen before, all from the original Mortal Kombat, and you're going to have the Great Kung Lao and all them. And then what's going to happen is Liu Kang is going to teleport some characters from the future back, and in a plan that he has to end Mortal Kombat. So he's like, oh, if I bring back Johnny Cage and Sonya and Jax, they'll help and we won't lose to Goro. And then the Mortal Kombat thing won't continue on. It'll be over. And that'll be his way. But then you'll have Shang Tsung, for example, who will teleport back some evil guys in a against him. So you'll have nearly like 3 stories going on. You'll have the villains, the good guys, and then the actual old Mortal Kombat happening. And it'll
Shang Tsung wouldn't even be alive at this stage, though, because he is an Earthrealmer. Even
yeah,
though he fights for Outworld, he is an Earthrealmer, born and raised. So,
he's not even
he wouldn't
around.
be old enough to be there 500 years ago. So he's
But
pretty
his
much off
future
the playing
self.
field.
But the future self of him that got the powers would have. So you'll have 3 timelines all going back to an old timeline, if you get me. So the ending of that DLC had Shang Tsung as the victor and had Kung Lao as the victor, and then they'll play it that they both won, and then their both went back to the original Mortal Kombat and
So
sent
when
their
you split it into multiple timelines, though, how do you ever manage to bring it back to
oh
just one believable one? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
oh
reckon
no, you're
that's
out.
where they messed themselves over.
It's
Yeah,
why
yeah, yeah.
it's why I don't really like. That's why I really don't like the whole messing with time and stuff like this, because it's just like, even in movies and stuff like that, like all this shit happens and then it just goes poof back to the end, and like all that just never
Yeah.
happened. Do you know
It's
sort of
like
way?
it's a dream, when the person wakes up at the end of the movie. Oh,
Yeah.
that was all a dream.
What happened? Where am I? But yeah, like I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I know, Doctor Strange and the multiverse thing and all is coming out and stuff like that. Except Marvel seem to be doing it very well. In keeping it like, there's this one tough proper timeline, and now apparently they fucked
Whoa.
it up, and all these other timelines are coming out and blah 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 blah. But like,
That's actually a mess. Like I haven't seen the new Morbius yet, but
oh no,
apparently
I haven't either.
I haven't seen it either. But apparently, like they're messing around with what he's in Venom's timeline, which means that there's no Spider-Man in that timeline because they've never hinted at a specific Spider-Man. So,
Hmm.
and the fact, and the big, sorry, I know this is off topic. Vulture is in his timeline, and he's in the same timeline as Venom, which means that he must have been transported from Tom Holland's timeline into their timeline.
Oh
They don't
yeah, I
exist.
didn't realize he is a cameo.
It
Isn't it?
makes absolutely no sense why
Yeah.
while Vulture is in that film whatsoever. Apparently, all the scenes were cut from the film as well. So
Oh, this is
I haven't
X-Men
seen it.
all over again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like,
Exactly.
if it's this is why you don't mess with timelines or this is the time for any at all. It just makes an absolute bollocks of it because
Yeah.
all the trailers had Vulture in it. Apparently, all those scenes are cut out. He's only in it once or twice, and it makes zero sense why he's
Yeah.
there. Because why would he be teleported out of Tom Holland's timeline when everyone was being teleported into his timeline?
Exactly. Like, don't get me wrong. I did like when they did it the first time in MK9, when Raiden went back to his pure ass self and said he must win, because you were able to see things. So you were able to still see things play out at various, like, instead of Smoke being Cyber's, Sub-Zero was blah blah blah, and then
but
like
all
obviously he came back and stuff
all
like
of that was Chronica's plan.
Well, in her head it was, but like
Yeah, so supposedly Chronica had all this planned up to number 11. Now she's gone, so now it's up to whoever takes her place to what happens because they control time. So it does open the door for like a lot of new things to come in, and I kind of personally want them to go back to the characters that everyone speaks about that we've never seen. That's something I would like to see, like the Great Kung Lao.
Yeah, it would be cool actually. Like, sorry to interrupt you, but it would be cool to like say like what you're saying there. Liu Kang and the Great Kung Lao, he trains them to be really good, so he defeats Goro. So, but like remember the whole thing is like Khan wants Earthrealm, and he has to do a Mortal Kombat every 100 years, isn't it? Every 100 years or 500 years?
I can't be 500 years, I don't think.
It can't be
Yeah.
500 years.
But because remember, the champion of Mortal Kombat basically always is given him like immortality until the next Mortal Kombat has come up. That's always been a thing in the story. So it could be that Liu Kang does train the Great Kung Lao. He becomes the champion all the times up until MK1, let's say again, the first tournament where we got introduced, which was the night tournament, and then everyone else comes in again, like Johnny Cage and Liu Kang, and then it goes from there. So then it'd be the Great Kung Lao and Fire God Liu Kang with Johnny Cage and Sonya, and then let's say Kung Lao was just there as well with the Great Kung Lao or something like that. You know what I mean? That could be somewhere where they could take the story off again. It's just that's just to stop everyone's favorite stuff not being there anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because
look, it's a tough one to guess where they're gonna go with it. I'm sure they have got a good idea, and I'm sure we'll all be on board when it happens. But I agree with Owen that they've definitely put themselves in a corner here where they're gonna go next, unless they just wipe the slates clean like they kind of did with number 9.
Yeah,
start again. I don't know.
Like, I have faith, and I have heard that John Tobias is back.
Is he?
What?
Yeah, like they did say that John Tobias was reportedly back with in like he's been doing stuff for like with Warner Brothers and stuff, and everyone's freaking out saying he's back on the Mortal Kombat project and blah 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 blah.
That would be dope.
Exactly. Like
Hmm.
that's what I'm from if I can remember what I heard from. So take that with a grain of salt, like basically. But I did see it somewhere that John Tobias is rumored to be coming back and stuff like that. So if that's the case, I don't know if you guys have ever remembered. Like there was an interview with John Tobias saying, was it always the plan for this character to do that and this character to do that? And he goes, not really, because I think what was his last game? His last game was 4, was it, or 3? Can anyone
I
you remember?
believe his last was 4.
Yeah.
But I believe the interview you're talking about might be from which is called Mortal Podcast or something to that effect.
Mm,
That he was on, and yeah, he was saying that it was almost going to be a case of a younger generation of combatants. So something similar, I guess, at this stage to what we know that came in MKX. But he was going to implement this much earlier because it would have been around the time that we actually got Deadly Alliance
yeah.
instead.
And he was
You
saying
know,
he was hinting that General Reiko was going to be an incarnation of Shao Kahn. That's why he kept putting on the helmet and all. So he was going to be the next Shao Kahn, basically.
I think that guy needs more limelight. I really do. I think he's got so much potential and just never had enough games to appear in. He's never been on enough rosters for
Yeah.
to be the character he deserves to be. You know.
Mm. Anyway, to go on to our next question. Anyway, this is kind of a, let's say, like a kind of a one in question, basically. Like we'll do kind of a speed round. So with all the Mortal Kombat games, what's probably your favorite Mortal Kombat game, and then what's probably your least favorite Mortal Kombat game? So Owen, you go.
Favorite for me is a flip up between MK2 and MK9.
Mm.
Which in many ways are the same and different games.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
MK2 because it just raised the bar so much from the first game. I loved the first game. I played the socks off it as a kid. In fairness, I did play it was the SNES version I was playing, so it was unblooded when I was playing it personally. I know I said earlier on, first time I saw it was on Mega Drive, but when I had a copy as a kid, it was on SNES. But I knew the Blood and Gore version. I had played that. I don't think the SNES version lacked for me personally. But then the second game came along, and it was darker, and I had a bigger roster, and I had some of my all-time favorite characters showed up for the first time: Kung Lao, Kitana, Baraka. And it was just mind blowing. All of a sudden, Goro was dead, but you had Kintaro taking his place, and I was like, "What is this huge man, dragon, tiger hybrid? Oh my god!" You had the story leading up to that. The guy that we thought was the big bad, Shang Tsung, was just a lackey for this absolute heavy metal monster looking man, Shao Kahn, and he was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Then you had so many secrets in there. Your noob sidebite, your smoke, your jade, your secret fatalities like the Kintaro fatality that I mentioned earlier on. You could actually play as Shang Tsung now and morph into everybody else in the game. It was just
Yeah.
perfect. Absolutely perfect. It played well. It looked well. The backgrounds, the likes of the Deadpool, the Living Forest, they were phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I've got just such a place in my heart for Mortal Kombat 2 that it can never be replaced for me. But MK9 as well, I'm crazy about because it it was a nostalgia rush for starters. It was a nostalgia rush because you had all those classic characters together again for the first time in God knows how long. You also had new stuff thrown in, like let's say you had combo breakers. I know you had the combo breakers in the 3D era, but this was bringing it back to 2D now with combo breakers. You had X-ray moves for the first time. You had the crazy over the top fatalities. You had the fully fleshed out story mode for the first time proper. I know you had it in DC, but we don't talk about that one. So you had this incredible take on the original story coming to life, and I got into the competitive gaming scene through MK9. So for me, it holds another special place in my heart because of that. I learned how to proper play video games. Like I played video games forever, but now I was taught by one of the big players here in Ireland, One Man Tree Leonard. He taught me all about how to implement frame data, what it meant, what armor meant, what all of these different OTGs, all of these different terms that I simply never heard of before. That man beat me into shape in that game. He genuinely did. Um, and I went round the toured around the country playing in tournaments left and right, meeting friends left and right. Big shout outs to the entire Irish MK community, the likes of the original Razor, all these big powerhouse players that we all became great friends then through simply playing this over the top video game at tournaments. And each time one of us got better, the next guy had to get better because you didn't want to be in second place. And then the first guy had to get better again. So we pushed each other constantly. There was this camaraderie about it, and it was just unbelievable. It's such a place in my heart because of that. So those two games, I simply I can't separate. I genuinely can't separate. They are both my favorite MKs.
That's all.
Nice. I agree with Owen. Number two is one of my favorite. I think because it was the most accessible to me. And number one was for me was just pure arcade. I never actually had it at home or anything. That game was in the arcade. And number two was on my SNES, and that game. So for me, that was my first sort of it wasn't my first taste, but it was my first time getting my hands on with the game. And as like the Living Forest, the Deadpool, the levels like just stuck with me for years and years. Like every time they go, "What level would you like to see in a game?" Deadpool, please. I just love those games. We finally got like Reptile, a much better Kano from what I've played because I've played the first game now. And then I love number 9 as well because number 9 refreshed. Like it got so downhill and so sort of beat to a pulp and milk dry that number 9 seemed to refresh the whole thing, and it was exciting again. And the graphics were better. The fighting sequences were the same as the second game, but now in a 3D environment rather than the 3D environment they were trying to build with these blocks and this like oval shape, like trying to copy Tekken with their open world sort of fighting sequences. This like 2D plane but with 3D characters just seemed to work really, really well. And I just love the new models and stuff like that. So I think like 9 got me back and excited about the whole franchise. But number 2 was what got me into the franchise. So I'd completely agree with Owen. I think number 2 and number 9 are by far the best they've done so far.
Can I give you a wee story if we have the time about number 2 for me, if you don't mind, Mr.
Yeah.
Payne.
Go on, yeah.
Sorry to hog the mic. I get rambling sometimes when I go MK, so my apologies.
We
But
all do it.
we do. But I didn't actually know there was a sequel to Mortal Kombat. I was still playing the socks off the first game, so had obviously been out some time because it was already on SNES before I realized that it actually had a sequel. You know, and there was this guy. This guy went door to door around my estate, dropping in these little leaflets, and these leaflets had a list of video games on them, and a phone number. And basically, you could call this guy up and go, "Hey, could I get Super Mario Kart and Stunt Racer FX?" And he'd say, "Sure thing." And he'd drop them around to you on a Monday evening, and he'd pick them up on a Friday evening, and he'd essentially rent you the games. You know,
Nice.
you give him a bit of cash for it. And I saw on that leaflet Mortal Kombat 2, and I said to my mother, can we rent off this guy? Can we get Mortal Kombat 2? And she gave him a call. She organised it. He dropped the game around. I played it from Monday to Friday. I told all my friends I absolutely loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. He comes round then on Friday to pick it up, and he asked me how I got on with the game. And I said, "Oh, it was great. Reptiles in it now, and you can play as Shang Tsung." And I started waffling, and he goes, "You probably didn't know the moves, though, did you?" I was like, "I know some of them. I played the first game, so many of the moves are the same. You know, your spear, the ice ball, many of them work the same." But he was like, "I'll tell you what, my son has a book at home with all of the moves in it. So you hang on to the game there. I'll drop back in an hour with the book." So he dropped back in an hour with a book full of special moves, finishers, secrets, everything I needed for Mortal Kombat 2, told me to hang on to the game for the following week for free, and I just went hellbent for leather on that game. That's where that was
Nice.
the deep fall into the game for me. I was like, I've got everything I need here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Incredible, incredible service. I don't know whatever happened to that guy or anything, or if anybody else in my area
I'd
remembers him, but
I'd say he's
he's a
CEO of
legend, man.
I say he's CEO of Netflix.
Guy's a legend, though. Guy's a legend. I
That's
tip my
brilliant.
hat, like, you know.
That's a great idea. Whatever he's doing, it's a brilliant idea.
Brilliant. Did we say our
Um,
least? Did we say our least
what
favorite?
you didn't tell us, Payne, what your favorite games are.
Oh yeah, sorry. Well, if I was, I probably would agree with 2. I played the hell out of 2 when I was a kid. As you said, like it jumped up a hell of a lot from the first one. Like more characters, more fatalities. Obviously Liu Kang's dragon, which blew me out of the water. Friendships, even though they're kind of too hard, they were a little bit hard for me to pull off. Sometimes I don't know why, but when I did them, it was hilarious. And obviously some of the stages as well, like the Deadpool one and all, just like it's just something that would stay in my memory. The amount of times I played it, like it was like, oh yeah, Deadpool, but I never ever knew that you were able to actually knock him into the Deadpool until
Yeah.
until years later, like. It's just you have to hold a certain sequence of buttons. It was quite funny. Like definitely MK2. Deception because of the conquest mode, 100%. Like being able to go
That's Ultimate Talon, is it?
Taven. No, that was
Taven, that's the one. Taven.
that
That's
was
the one,
that
yeah.
was Armageddon.
Attack on Titan,
Deception
yeah.
That was, I
was
mean, I like that one
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
That was pretty good because you were able to actually proper fight and you had special moves and all. And then obviously when you came up against the actual fighters, you went into a like a 1v1 proper Mortal Kombat fight. I thought that was really
Yeah.
cool. And then you had your own sorts of fatalities during that as well. But Deception for me was just so much more because like the being able to go to all the different realms, all the secrets that it has, like you had to be here at a certain time and a certain day to get like Liu Kang's human form again and stuff like that, and being able to see all the different characters of Mortal Kombat and just going over and randomly punching people in the face and watching them get knocked over and then some of them getting back up and then knocking you on your ass and stuff like that is just hilarious. Definitely.
Like the Grand Theft Auto of Mortal Kombat.
That would be more or less why Deception, and of course the intro. Like I just thought the intro for Deception was so cool, and as well, I remember years ago. This is a little side story. Years ago, I actually had the Deception intro and the Deadly Alliance intro on a cassette. Yes, that's right, kids, a cassette. Tape, and I know I'd bring it everywhere. So like I could literally mouth off to you right now the Deadly Alliance intro almost word for word because I've listened to it so much. Do you know this sort of way?
Deception came out in 2004. What were you doing with cassettes in 2004?
It was literally because I was having like back in the day when you were able to record TV.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah,
you were
yeah.
actually able to put in a blank cassette and record TV. I had all the episodes of Mortal Kombat Conquest back then, like the one that was on the TV player. And then I had like I just had the cassettes like a lot of the time. Just having the Mortal Kombat like audios, books, and stuff like that. Plus, don't get me wrong, the CD disc Walkmans were shite because every time you moved them, they kept skipping and stuff like that. That's why I kind of just still had a bit of love for cassettes because you were able to record stuff onto it and all as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's fair.
But no, like yeah, but obviously when I moved up to the cassette things, finally I was able to put like stuff onto CDs and all. But it was just being able to like go anywhere and just listening to the Deadly Alliance intro and listening to the Deception intro. I thought it was pretty cool. I was just listening to it and going to bed and stuff like that. And then now I could, as I said, now I could just kind of mouth off to you the whole intro if I really needed to. And then yeah, again, I'd agree with you also with MK9. MK9 definitely re-hyped myself because when Armageddon came out, I thought it was cool. I thought it was a nice introduction to creative fighter, the way you were able to create your own character, give him his own special moves and stuff. However, I did kind of think they could have expanded on that a lot more in terms of being able to give yourself specific fatalities. Like if you had specific special moves, you could have specific fatalities, but the fatalities in that were a bit of a letdown because it's like a punch here and then a punch to the gut there and then you rip off his arm. It's like a what was it? It was like, what was it? A create your fatality type thing. They
Create a
tried.
fatality, they call it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
It was
wasn't like
awful.
it was
Yeah.
awful. Yeah.
Can
Because
I retake my least favorite fatality? It's everyone in
Yeah,
Armageddon.
yeah. Everyone in Armageddon, yeah. You just
like
pull out their splines, like just pull out their spleen 16 times.
yeah, or like crush
yeah.
their head, or like
Yeah.
to pull out their yeah, because like when I heard create a fatality, I was like at the time I think I was playing Tony Hawk, one of the pro skaters, and it was the way to create a trick you could do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be something like that, where you could have, let's say, you could have a
Just gonna
beginning.
run to the toilet, pain.
Yeah, go ahead. You could have like a beginning and a middle and then an end. So like the beginning could be like, say you do a cool like few punches and stuff, and then the middle could be, I don't know, you do some flashy thing with like a special move or something, and then the final thing would be your proper finisher. Do you know that sort of way? That's how I was thinking in my head that creative fatality was going to go, but then no, it was just all sorts of punch here and a punch there, and then rip off his leg and then beat him to death with his leg, and it was just it's just like everyone had that. Everyone didn't have their own fatalities. Every single character had that. I mean, I would have been fine if that was the creative fighters fatalities to do that sort of thing. But when every single other character had those type of things, you're like, oh no, why can't I use my spear? I'm Scorpion, for God's sake.
I think the problem with Armageddon was that as much as it was just it was a fun game, but I think the problem was that they just crammed
Too many
too much
characters.
into it.
Yeah.
To a point where I don't think they had any room left to put in the likes of animation for individual fatalities for
Oh yeah,
what,
God
like
no. I mean,
60
do
characters.
you remember the
It
endings?
was the same with the endings. You didn't get individual endings, and I felt a little ripped off. There are so many characters that I would happily trade in to get my fatalities instead. I'll tell you what, you can keep your mocap, you can keep this guy and that guy, give me back my fatalities.
Mm.
I think it was just, it was substance, too much just thrown in, like, what I mean, it was overloaded, and I think that was the issue with that game. So yeah, I'm totally with you with that. I remember sitting there. I remember picking that up on opening morning. Myself and a friend of mine going there and picking it up and heading back home. And it comes up after the first fight, finish him. And I turn around to my mate going, you'll never pull off a finishing move. And he hits random buttons, and that seems to be all it took to activate any part of that creative fatality. And I was like, oh, well, damn.
Yeah, that was dog shit. That one. That was fucking. That was bad.
Yeah, like
Dark
I was
days, man, dark days.
absolutely, and I remember, and the endings as well, where like it's just him dancing, like the character dancing around, and you're getting told what happened when he got the flame of blaze. Like you're like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Is that the one where like they have the meme where like it's Jared is throwing everyone off the cliff?
No.
That's
Or is that
MK4.
That's 4, is it?
Yeah, it's
4,
MK4. Yeah.
That was bad. The endings on that one were awful as well.
No. Some of them are really good. Some of them are actually really cool. Because if you played, there's actually a guy remaking the endings on YouTube right now. And,
you showed me this.
Yeah. Like the Quan Chi one I thought was really cool, where Shinnok was about to backstab him, but then he basically played an Uno reverse card and he backstabbed Shinnok. He's like, I've got your amulet, fuck you, and all. But like, the funniest thing about MK4 was the gibberish, like just the stupid stuff they said and all. And plus, obviously, like, some of the endings, like where what was it? Jarek throws Sonya off the cliff and then like smashes the radio, and there's this weird laugh, and then Jax is like, "This is not a brutality, this is a fatality," and just drops him.
I think it was the fact that those 3 characters all had the same ending.
Yeah.
Like, so if you played as Jared, he threw Sonya off the cliff. If you played as Sonya, when Jared threw you off the cliff, she caught onto the cliff and threw him off the cliff. And then if you played as Jax, it was just after Sonya was thrown off the cliff. Then Jax turns up. It was just like, it was so lazy. Like,
exactly. Yeah, it was a nice idea.
I think I kind of forgive them in MK4 for the endings because of the time it came out. Like, these were corny and bad, but so was everything else at the time. So was Resident Evil 1. You know what I mean? The voice acting was complete cack, but we loved it for what it was because that's how far video games had gotten at the time. We didn't have better voice acting. We didn't have less chunky animations. You know, that was
Yeah.
unfortunately top tier for the moment. So looking back at those endings now, yeah, they're a bit gack. You know, but they were fine. You know, at
I think
one stage.
I think they were trying to be a little bit more interactive than the Tekken ones, because Tekken would have been big then.
Mm.
Everybody
And
got thrown off a cliff in Tekken
yeah,
2. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, like the Tekken graphics and the CGI cutscenes and stuff were like out of this world, and they looked beautiful. And I think they were trying to kind of compete with that with a lower budget.
Mhm.
I do think there was a period in Mortal Kombat history where the budget, where like companies didn't, they were like, this isn't gonna work, and they were like, well, look, we can do it on a lower budget, you know, and they just kept banging them out for years. Like there's like a Deception. Deception was like Deception's not a bad story. Like it's tough. It's a tough one. It's Deception wasn't a bad storyline. Deadly Alliance, I think, was the kind of the last of the good stories, and then like kind of Armageddon was decent, but the mechanics were terrible. I'd never played Mortal Kombat Unchained. What's that?
Unchained, I
That
think
is just
it's Deception as
sorry,
well,
go
isn't
ahead,
it?
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's Deception, isn't it? But it's just on the PSP.
It's essentially Deception on PSP. Yeah, there's one or
Oh,
two
okay.
extra characters like you can play as Shao Kahn and that version of it. But yeah, it's basically handheld Deception.
Mm.
And they gave you a cool like little mini game on that. It was like test your balance. You were like over a pit, and if you fell off, you'd either get killed by piranhas or get impaled by spikes. You know, different things like that. Really, it was pretty cool. Okay, so we've talked about our favorite MK game. What about your least favorite MK game thus
Oh,
far?
we've definitely covered that as well.
Have we? Yeah.
I'll just jump in and say Deception.
Ooh. Okay. Do you want to say why?
Because I remember playing 2, 3, Ultimate, 4. Don't never remember playing Gold. Special Forces I never played.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, Advanced and everything. Deadly Alliance I remember being the last decent game that I went, this is good. And after that, up until Armageddon, and even though the fatalities are bad, I remember the story being good, or that like you could create your own character and stuff. And then I forgot all about Mortal Kombat until 9 came out.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna say Deception because that's the one I would have played, but it would be in between my good and bad.
Okay, fair. What about you, Owen?
Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe for me, it was Mortal Kombat without the Mortal Kombat. You
Hmm.
know, it
Yeah.
didn't feel like an MK game. It felt like they were sacrificing everything that MK had to accommodate the DC side,
Yeah.
and it did not appeal to me at all. I wanted to. I wanted to like it, even though I'm not even a DC fan, but I wanted to like it because it was a Mortal Kombat game. I gave it a good try. I stuck with it for a while, but I had to put it to a side and just kind of admit, look, dude, you don't like this. You know, it just
Yeah.
wasn't for me.
Even though I agree with you that it's not a great game, if it didn't have that game, we never would have got Injustice, and Injustice is a good game.
We probably also never would have gotten anything after that because that's pretty much where the marriage between Mortal Kombat and Warner Brothers started.
Definitely, yeah.
So, and that's where the story mode started as well. So, it is baby steps from there to MK9 to Injustice and so on and so forth. And I know it is essential. It just, for me, it's not a Mortal Kombat game. And when you go into the actual story of it, you had the Mortal Kombat guys teaming up and trying to take out the DC guys, but it felt like it was written by somebody who knew nothing about it. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I remember sitting there and thinking, there's one scene where Kano and Sonya are walking side by side and talking to each other, and then they get in a fight. They're kind of tag teaming, you know. And I'm like, Sonya Blade and Kano, this is very, very odd. And
Yeah.
then in the next scene, then it's Shang Tsung and Liu Kang side by side. And I'm like, what? What? You know,
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
of
What
these
now?
pairs of people are are rivals. They hate each other's guts. They would never just walk side by side and not mention it.
Maybe
You know
it
what I
was
mean?
Chronica making a different timeline. You
Well,
know?
They want to
actually,
get our
there
stuff
was,
together.
yeah, there was actually in MK11 when they were, when Raiden and Liu Kang were like, "If you must die, so be it," and then it went through all the different timelines. You did see MK versus DC in all those timelines. So yeah, you're right. It was Chronica, I think, trying to
Oh,
bring
was it?
together. Yeah, it was a thing about
There was,
Chronica trying to bring
I
in
think,
the
I
DC.
thought I just made that up.
Sub-Zero and Raiden, when they're fighting, they mention things that happened in DC Universe.
Yeah.
They mention a woman with a shield and a sword, and they mention reference one of the other characters as well. And they're like, "Was that a dream or what?" So yeah, it is part of the overall canon.
Hmm.
It is a small segue, but like I said, it doesn't feel or play like a Mortal Kombat game. Not for me.
Yeah. What about you, Payne?
I would definitely say, because like if I was to go on ones that I knew about and played, it would definitely be MK versus DC as well. It's like Owen said, it was only really to play between for the DC, and like the like wasn't Mortal Kombat. It was just to be thing. However, I'm so glad that Special Forces flew under my radar, because good Jesus, I only played that like a couple of years ago. I never actually played it when it came out, and back then I was all things Mortal Kombat, and I'm very surprised it was one to go under my radar, because I never actually picked it up. Because otherwise, if I had seen it in the shop, I would have been like, buy me this now," to my parents, like, you know what I mean? Because that's what I was, a little shit when I was a kid. I was always like, that's with Mortal Kombat stuff. I was like, buy me this now. But with that, I'm just kind of glad it flew under my radar, because I played it good number of years ago. I can't remember how long, but when I played it, good Jesus Christ, did I been like, what the fuck am I playing here? Like, do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I mean, I know they wanted to try something out, and it's fine. Like, I mean, because don't get me wrong, they tried it out with Shaolin Monks, it went perfectly. But just the thing with Jax, and it was a top-down view, and it was like it was kind of trying to be a fighter, but I think it was also like a shooting game and stuff like that as well. And obviously, at the time, they were limited with the technology and stuff like that as well. I think if they were maybe to remake it today, they might be able to do that, something to make it amazing and stuff. But I just thought when I played it, I was like, "Oh God, this is not a Mortal Kombat game." I was like, "What is this? Is this like, this is a joke, right?" But like, I'm not trying to shit on anyone's work here or anything. I just personally thought it wasn't a game for me, to be honest.
I mistaken, or was Tobias actually involved in that one? I
Uh,
believe he was. I think that might have actually. I said earlier on that I thought four was his last game. I think that might have actually been Tobias's last game with the MK crew.
right.
I think he might have done it with a smaller crowd as almost a side project. I know that it was released at a budget price as well.
Hmm.
So I think John Tobias might have actually been involved with that. Like, don't get me wrong, I totally agree with your opinion. It was awful. It's dreadful stuff. But yeah, I think he might be, bizarrely, I think he might be involved in that one.
Hmm. But anyway, that's anyway our personal least favorites. To throw both of you guys as well, to kind of combine both questions. Your characters, what's your favorite and your least favorite characters, or do you guys have specific ones?
Oh, least favorites. Total Khan.
Total Khan. Oh,
Total.
what?
Total
Oh,
Khan.
Kotal
Sorry.
Khan. Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, I kind of agree. I was expecting a new Shao Kahn when he was announced, but then I was like, yeah, this is terrible.
I
Um,
don't like him.
and your favorite?
Favorite has to be. I have
Kano.
so many. I've three favorites that like I go. Kano's my main guy.
Right.
I love Kano. I love everything about Kano. Reptile is my big, like, he's my favorite from number 2 and onwards. And then the reason I love shit, I've forgotten his name because I'm so excited. The guy who could change into anybody.
Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung?
Your Shang Tsung, your soul is mine. I actually learned how to change into every character, and I used to go fight Minion, and I was able to change into the exact same character, whatever character he picked, and use the same moves against him to beat him. And it was something like I could have spent that time learning something at school. I could have learned. I could have put that time into learning a new skill or something that would have made my life better. But no, I learned every single trick to change into every character in number 2, and I still to this day absolutely love the fact that I could do that, and I wish that that was more of a thing in the new games. But yeah, so so that's my top three characters is those guys.
Owen?
Um, First of all, I love the fact that Shao Kahn could change as well. I used to love fighting as one of the ones that I like to fight as, and then when it could go finish him, you'd change into somebody just to see their finishing move,
Mm.
and that was
Yeah,
always fun.
yeah,
I love the bad guys. I love the bad guys. Shang Tsung, I think, is fantastic because he's just so manipulative. You can't trust him as far as you can throw him. You genuinely can't. And he's got such incredible confidence about it, and such a way of making you unsure of your own loyalties while he's doing it. I think he's absolutely just a fantastically written character. You mentioned Kano there, Peto. I also love Kano. I
yeah,
would never play Kano because he's not my style of play.
yeah.
But again, he's one of the coolest characters in there because he's just a dirtbag. He would buy and sell his own mother. You know what I mean? He is just utterly ruthless, and I absolutely love that. And we're talking about the guy who was the MKX, where one of his animations in between rounds where he knocked you down was he just spit on you, hock a loogie on your corpse, and walk away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or he'd take a piss.
yeah, utter scum, and I love him for that. And my favorite to play as would be Katana, and has been for a very, very long time. She's one of my favorite characters, full stop. Even though she's not one of the bad guys, but playing as her is just so fantastic. It feels brilliant. She's so fluid. She's so elegant. Yet she's still ripping off limbs and tearing out organs, but it never looks as, dare I say, savage as it does when other characters do it. She's got this certain flow to her that I just absolutely love. And not only that, but she's got these bonkers combos back in the old game where I was like, whoa, you know. But yeah, I love the flow of her. I love the feel of playing Katana. I love putting together these massive combos and looking graceful while doing it, even though you're absolutely butchering a man alive. We're still talking about the woman who, she opens up your from the chest down with a bladed fan in the new game and spins around so fast that she sucks your intestines out. It's still absolutely horrific. It's still gross, but she's got this elegance to it, and I just think she's cool. I know I mentioned earlier on when she kind of unionized all of the races in Outworld. That was just a heart-moving moment for me in the whole franchise. I was like, wow, it's finally happened. She's finally done this. She can be the Khan. This is amazing, and then they reversed it. But yeah, I've got a lot of love for Katana. I think she's absolutely magnificent. And when it comes to sitting down and picking up the pad and playing MK, she's my go-to character.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool.
Kano's my one for beating pain.
Yeah, of course. That's it. Get online right now. Come on, we're gonna settle this. No, I think I have a few good favorite characters. It kind of depending on what game I was playing, because when I was playing MKX, Kung Lao was definitely my go-to because I knew a lot of his combos, a lot of his moves and stuff. Especially with various different variations and stuff. He was definitely my go-to guy. In MK11, it would be Liu Kang. But if I'm to choose one from all throughout the games, I always would be loving to pick Liu Kang in all various different types of games. 100%. I fell in love with Shang Tsung because of how much of an ass he is, and his power, and especially when Kari Tagawa played him in the likes of the original movie and the way he played him in Mortal Kombat 11. I was like, yes, I was like, this is Shang Tsung right here, do you know, sort of way. And then again, like, just him being an absolute asshole and stuff like that, and backstabber and stuff, I fell in love with it as well. So definitely Liu Kang and Shang Tsung would be my two utmost favorites. Personally, my power to be is lightning, so I'd obviously throw Raiden in there a little bit. but that's a more just the power side of things, really. My least favorite character, however, who would this be now? To be honest, I don't know. I just kind of have a feeling to say the likes of Mocap for just because he was just kind of a random.
That's the easy answer. That's the
exactly.
easy answer.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
it.
too
like,
easy. That's too
yeah.
easy. No, Cassie Cage.
No, Cassie wasn't too bad.
See, Cassie Cage is a mix between Sonya and Johnny Cage. And I know it's their kid, but it's just she's nothing really like you. I don't think she's anything unique that makes her an extra character. Like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile, they all look identical. They all have completely different move lists. But with Cassie Cage, you can literally see that's Sonya. That's Johnny. You know what I mean? I just find her character like excruciating. I just hate that character, and I think her move lists are garbage compared to some of the other newer characters. Like who was the big guy that had the little person on them in the
Ferrator.
Yeah, what a great character and what a great fatalities and a good move list, and didn't get into number 11. And Cassie Cage did. It just makes me upset. But yeah, for me anyway, Cassie Cage.
It's all right. They've redone the timeline. She's gone.
I don't reckon they're going to lose her. I reckon they're definitely going to keep Cassie. She's a fan favorite. I know you say you don't think her yourself, but she blew up. A lot of people got behind her. I reckon they'd be crazy to lose her at this stage.
Give me more Reptile and Kano, and I'm happy. Just those two in a game, and I'd buy it for 60 quid.
Those two as Shaolin monks, like
no, it's just not even. Just the whole game is Mortal Kombat, Reptile versus Kano.
Give me 7. Well, if Mocap was too easy, then I'd definitely say Kotal Khan. He just really irked me when he was introduced in 10. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if you were to look at him, if he wasn't a playable character, and if you were just looking to him as he is, if he wasn't called Khan, and if he wasn't meant to be the emperor, I would have been fine with him. But I expected him to be Shao Kahn-esque. Do you know this way?
He's better in 11 than he is in 10. But 10's character was very slow, like too slow nearly. But 11 they did improve on him.
Very true, yeah. I like the way he was able to turn into that cool Shadow Cat and stuff like that.
Yeah, but no, I wouldn't be a huge fan. I can't think of anybody I really hate. Like I'd like to see Meat again, just for the sake of seeing Meat again. But he wasn't a good character.
He was just I think he was just thrown in as piss take, wasn't he?
There are a lot of characters in the kind of 3D age that I'd happily toss away. You know, the likes of Su Hao, the likes of Darius, Dairu. I know Asha has a big fan base, but she never really did much for me. I thought there were a lot of kind of throwaway characters in that era, a lot of which never showed up again, and a lot of which just simply aren't missed. You know, there are a couple that made a return, the likes of Bo Raicho, for example. I like Bo Raicho. I think it's cool. Kenshi became a fan favorite, of course. I'm a big fan of Havoc. I'd love to see Havoc.
I'd love to see Havoc. Yeah, he's brilliant.
Especially with modern day graphics. Although he contorts himself, it'd be
because he twists and turns in ways that nobody else does. So it'd be 100% interesting to see him make a return. Yeah, Havoc, definitely.
But I reckon there are definitely a lot of characters there that in that era that I'm probably forgetting about, and there's probably damn good reason for that.
What was the guy that looked like Ryu? He looked like a
Cobra.
A Cobra.
Yeah.
Fucking awful character.
Are you kidding me? He's like the best out now. He's not. I couldn't call it that with a straight face.
It is Ryu from Street Fighter. They didn't need to.
But he's more Ken because he had the blonde hair.
Ken.
Yeah,
I thought he was supposed to be Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai. I thought that was the idea.
Oh,
I thought it was like.
I thought that's what where the influence came. I could be completely mistaken. I really could. I thought that's where the idea came from.
I'll look it up now.
You could be right. I just think he always reminded me of a Street Fighter character, and I was like, he's
Oh
out of
yeah, I
like,
always whack. I
yeah,
would never find it. I do reckon though, if they redid his fatality from Deception, if they did that with the way everything looks and feels now, it would be one of the better fatalities that would be really memorable. He
yeah.
used to rip out your heart, which I know Kano doesn't, so does Kotal Khan, but he used to rip it out and shove it down your neck, shove it down your throat.
Hmm.
But considering the limitations of the graphics on the PS2, he could pretty much just push it in your face and you'd fall over, and that was it. If you did that these days with MK11 graphics, oh
Yeah,
my god, man, that'd be
yeah,
harsh.
yeah, 100%. I'd love to see Takeda make a return as well because I really liked
Hmm.
him in 10. I thought the whips, like, I don't think enough things do use whips. Like, for example, like say Star Wars, imagine a whip lifesaver, the
That'd be
lifesaver.
dope.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's kind of like when he brought in the whips and he sort of controlled them a little bit. I was like, that's pretty cool. And I wasn't a big fan of his character because it was hard to use and it wasn't really my style. But when he wasn't in 11, I was like, oh, I was actually kind of like, even though I don't like him, I'm like, that's strange. He's not in there. He seemed like a decent character with a decent move list and
It's a great backstory too.
yeah, good
Absolutely,
backstory.
yeah. They tried to play it. I thought they tried to play it off that Kenshi and Takahashi were out trying to find the mother's killer, because that was the whole story, wasn't it? It's like the mom
Hmm.
died because
Mm.
of, and then they met up with who was it? They made up with Taven and in the ending and stuff. But then you go into the crypt and you find that Kenshi's dead in amongst all these people, and Shang Tsung even comments on it and stuff as well. So you're
Yeah,
thinking like, so hang on, if he's dead in the crypt, where the hell is Takahashi? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So
I
I
thought
don't
he
know.
was Scorpion's son.
No,
Am I
no,
getting that?
Scorpion just trained him. He's Kenshi's son, all right.
Oh, Scorpion. Yeah, sorry, Scorpion trained him.
Or should I say Hanzo Hashashi came and trained him. Yeah, Cobra was called Ken Masters as a placeholder name of his resemblance to Street Fighter character. So that's more or less why.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more because of
Yeah,
Ken. I think he was put into it.
yeah. That's why I didn't like about him.
That's fair. That's fair. With the blonde hair and the name Cobra, just made me think surely that they
Omberkai.
throw
Yeah.
back to Karate Kid. But that's fair. That's fair.
I wish it was that because that would have been better.
At least you'd have a bit of character to him, like
Yeah.
So this next question is kind of going on like a personal thing for you guys. If Ed Boon is watching this right now, hi Ed, how's it going?
I had
If he's watching this right now, and you could suggest a fighter, an arena, and a fatality for him to possibly use in the next game, what would you guys
Oh.
consider? Owen, you go. Take this one first.
Oh wow, are we talking like are we talking take classics from the old games, or are we talking something completely fresh?
Something completely fresh and new off the top of your head. Something that you've
Oh
always wanted to
shit.
see in Mortal Kombat, but has never been. Do you know that sort of way?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've been able to play at the bottom of the pit about once or twice over the years. I'd love to see background areas like that from other games being more explored. You know what I mean? There are so many fantastic uh, stages throughout all the games with so much going on that if we could get deeper into that, it would be fantastic. If we could get deeper into the graveyard, for example, from UNK3
Hmm.
and see more of that, see not necessarily different angles, but maybe there's something underneath that we could discover, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Or if we could get deeper into like the living forest and all of these great, great places that we only see one shot of. Like you look at Shang Tsung's Island, for example, on Mortal Kombat 11, and for the first time, you got to explore it yourself. You get to see where the pit was. You get to see where the courtyard was from MK1. With all the lads that are now dead and decayed around it. You
Yeah.
get to see all these cool areas, and you get to see how it all how it all connects. You know what I mean? Where you hadn't done that before. I would love to see some of the places in between like that. For we could talk about the pit two, for example, how you can see Blaze fighting in the background of the pit two. Um, so what's after that pit? What if we jump onto the next uh bridge there? What do we see then? I'd just love to get further into those stages and see more. You know what
Hmm.
I mean?
So are you talking
Um,
maybe like stages where you could go to, let's say, what they did in the likes of Deception, where if you uppercutted the guy 3 or 4 times, he went crashed to the floor and went down into a different area. Are you saying like arenas like that, or just completely new arenas that are like one arena but it's in a different area of a different arena?
the second one, not necessarily multi-layered arenas, because we have seen that. We've seen it in Deception along with the
Yeah.
booby traps. Cool. We've seen it in Mortal Kombat 3 when you could uppercut people through the subway and they'd land on the street. You
Mm.
know, but yeah, if we could get deeper into those arenas and see what else is actually happening around there, like these are huge, intricate worlds. What's going on just behind you, just beyond your eye line? I want to know what's on the other side of the living forest.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I want to know
Yeah.
what kind of beasts live within the living forest. It's not just dead hunters and trees that are there and ninjas hiding behind trees, of course. But what else is in there? If we go deep into the living forest, what do we find? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Basically, I'd love to just not necessarily have a brand new arena as much as have something that we've had glimpses of but never got to explore in the past, you know?
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
agree with that.
Fatality wise, I don't know, do some sick stuff. You always surprise me.
Yeah.
You're better at that than I am, Ed. Keep doing
Yeah.
what you're doing, man.
And fighter?
Oh, I don't know. I think there are a lot of unexplored fighters again. Ones that were almost left on the cutting room floor over the years, that kind of way.
Mm.
I know that they brought Tremor back recently,
I
and
love him.
he never got a fair crack at a whip before that. You
Mm.
know what I mean? For example, Scarlet was another kind of background character that we finally got to see up front and personal. I'm not sure what I'd like to see a character doing now. Think I'd like to see at this stage. I'd like to see somebody actually just go barefist, because every character at this stage bring the weapon with them. Liu Kang has the nunchucks. Rain came back with those weird things on his hands. You
Yeah.
get the classic weapons then, like the spear, Kano's knife, Melina's size, Katana's fans. I want to see somebody who doesn't need a weapon at this stage. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like everybody does. Raiden's got a staff, but Raicho's got a staff. Let's see somebody who's just going to go knuckle deep and go hell bent for leather, actual fist fight. Because although these weapons are cool, I think they're kind of taking over to a point where they don't need to right now.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
somebody to bring it back to basics, back to raw martial arts, I think would
Mm.
be cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's all.
Right. So I'd love to see an Irish character, right? And his thing is that he kind of poisons his opponent, so it's like damage over time.
With alcohol.
And well, no, I would try and stay away from that stereotype, but I think he should have a type of poison, like a scorpion or something like that, and like not a scorpion's tail, but I mean something that, like, if he bites, like if he's doing, say, a grapple move and he bites you at the end of the grapple move, and then that does extra damage time after because you're being poisoned by his venom. Which I don't think they've gone into too much. I think they've gone into acid and fire and wind and water and all that rest of it, but I don't think they've gone into sort of a poison. So I'd like to see a character that sort of does that sort of damage over time. Stage wise, I'd like to see more stages, kind of like the Deadpool, like the acid pit. I think sometimes when they make the stages so complicated, because of story, because they're trying to, like, oh, this is where we are in the story, so we need a stage that represents that story. I miss the old stages. Like, I would happily have all the stages from Mortal Kombat 2 remade into today's graphics, and like with their own stage fatalities and all the rest of it, and just put out, and then whatever else they needed for their story, let them do it. But I think some of the original ones are just like, you just can't beat them. There's nothing. Like, you have like Shao Kahn's sort of pit that he's on would be nice to see back. The pit itself, I think, is iconic. It's just, it is Mortal Kombat. maybe a few different types of pits, kind of similar to what Owen was saying there, like where the pit in the background. But what about a multiplayer level where you're fighting on the pit, and in the pit in the background is another two people in multiplayer fighting, and they can see you and you can see them. What about something like that? That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, all right.
Fatality wise, I'd love to see. I'm a bit of a Gorno whore where I love Saw, Final Destination, and Hostel, and those type of films. And I would love to see a little bit more of the bad guys being bad guys in their fatalities. So I think the good guys would kill people just instantly. Like they would be like, put them out of their misery. They're gone. I don't have to deal with them anymore. But I feel like the villains would be very much more, I'm going to make them suffer.
Yeah.
Before I finish them off. And I would love fatalities to be a little bit more characteristic, in the sense that, like, Johnny Cage is Johnny Cage. Like, see how well they put Johnny Cage's fatalities together. Like, he's an actor and he's funny and all this, like, you know what I mean? All the puppet one and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And if they put that thought into all of their characters, like, Quan Chi would not kill somebody instantly. He would torture them. You know what I mean? It's Kano would love nothing more. Like, if he was to kill Sonya, he would make that a huge, like, spectacle. But he would probably kill somebody like Scorpion straight away. So I would love to see more personal fatalities. Like, a fatality that you do to Sonya as Kano would be different to, like, it would play out differently to if you did it to Scorpion. So
like the faction kills from X.
Yeah, exactly. So I would love to see, like, if when certain characters interact with certain characters, the fatality is slightly different. Like, it's the same outcome, but it's a different build up to it. Like, make it more personal and stuff like that. That's something I would love to add to the fatalities.
It's very good, actually.
What about you, Payne?
Yeah, I think fatality wise, though, I do kind of want to see a bit more how would you say, a little bit more of a spectacle to it, you know, sort of way. Like back in the day, you know, we had like you know, turns into the dragon, bites him, and then he turns back, and then that's it, really. Do you know what I'd like to see a little bit more of a kind of a build up with these fatalities, like make a show out of it. You know what I mean? Because this is the whole finale of the match, so you want them to have this big sort of kind of build up to it. Like, and as you said there, like obviously villains make it a proper sort of a torturous-esque type personal, making them suffer type thing and stuff. Yeah, 100%, definitely villains and stuff like that. And then of course, like maybe with the good side, you could have, like, if they're really good, like they could be like, okay, you have this opportunity to redeem yourself, you know, announce your wicked ways or something like that, and then he just like gets spit in the face or something. He says, well, I warned you, and then you basically just end up like proper killing him in whichever way you want it possible or something like that. Arenas, I'm actually surprised arena wise where we haven't really seen much of like an Elder God arena. There was that obviously one in MK4 where the faces were in the background and stuff like that, but we haven't actually ever seen, like, you know, in MK9 where they go to the Elder Gods and they're all there like big up on their thrones watching them and stuff like that. I'm very surprised. Yeah, exactly. I'm very surprised there's never really been an arena like that where there's just big, massive little lads sitting in thrones, just watching them kicking the crap out of each other and stuff like that. And it probably is in the Mugen games, because obviously Mugen you can do whatever the hell you want and stuff like that. But yeah, arenas, like, I'd love to see a little bit more of a like different, like as Owen was saying there as well, a bit more kind of an in-depth look into various other stages and stuff like that. So, like, I mean, you have the Deadpool, and on either side you have a door, but what's on the opposite side of said door? Do you know what I mean? Like, well, you kind of wanted a bit more. Maybe it would go out, it would come out into a big, massive, like pitfall of acid. That's where the acid's going from inside the actual Deadpool itself, and it's going down there, and there's like various levels of like I don't know, dungeons and stuff like that. It's pretty much where they suffocate them and stuff like that. Which I'm also surprised when it comes to like arenas, like stage fatalities have been really gone away from since the older ones. Like if everyone said MKX brought back what, 2 stage fatalities, was it 2 or 3?
Maybe.
There was
and they were discovered kind of late as well, weren't they?
Exactly.
I don't think
they were DLC.
They were DLC, exactly. There was the Kraken one on the Cove, and there was the
Oh,
there
yeah,
was the
yeah,
Pit
yeah.
one. But I even said to my mate Jay, like, do you guys remember the jungle level?
Yeah.
In the background of that, there's a crocodile. I mean, there's a big, massive croc beast. Like, I was like, why wouldn't the stage fatalities would be for that? Is like you uppercut him, and he starts grabbing onto the vines over the pool, and he's there trying to bring himself back up, and then the croc would come up and he just chomp the bottom half of his torso,
They
and then
did. They did add some stage fatalities as brutalities, and I remember there was a level where there was an old woman, and if you
oh yeah,
finished your opponent off by throwing the old woman,
Blanche.
she pummeled. Yeah, Blanche. She pummeled you to death.
good old Blanche.
So there was a few. I think they kind of was like, should we make the stage fatalities? Like the brutalities in the last couple of games are phenomenally good. They're difficult to pull off. They look brilliant, and the ending is like you feel that the same way in the old games where you pulled off fatality and you went, oh, I did the up, down, down, left, right, up, down, and square, X, Y, and it worked. Yay! The brutalities feel like that in these ones. So, like, if you want to do a fatality grand here, you've got two fatalities to pick from. But if you want to do a brutality, you got 7 to pick from, and they're all dependent on how you play through the match. And I'm
Yeah.
like, they're 1,000 times better than the fatalities right now. And I think they were at a sort of a pass on, should the stage fatalities be brutalities and be difficult to pull off, or should they just be down, down, X? You know, that way. And I think I think they were kind of mixed between them, because in number 10, there was a few that were brutalities and a few that were actual fatalities.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
9 was the best one over the last generation for stage fatalities. Like,
I
because I
agree.
know before that you had the deception, had the booby traps and stuff like that, and essentially, I guess they were stage fatalities, but they could happen mid match and bam, you're dead. But in MK9, they redid some of the oldies, like, but really freshened them up, like, getting the man on the beat hook and dropping him into Deadpool slowly, grinding the dude's face against a passing train and lobbing him onto the tracks on the other side. They were just really, really well done. I love when you got a dude run over by a car on the street and it went into X-ray mode, so you could see his head fold up, and then his body was less twitching on the ground. Like, I think they did a great job on the stage fatalities in that one. They really gave it a lot of love.
Yeah, 9 was very good for everything. I think they tamed it for 10 and 11.
And I suppose my fighter would probably be. I want them to kind of focus a little bit more on the vampire-esque type fighters, because I feel Natara didn't really get a good run. Like, it was the whole, she had such a backstory and stuff back in Deadly Alliance about her race of people and stuff like that, and then ever since then, like, nothing. Other than Armageddon, we've had nothing really of her, and like they're talking.
There a guy with a rubber rope, and he was a vampire.
No, Movado. No, that was no.
Was
He
he
wasn't
not a vampire?
No, he was just
No,
part of the
okay.
Black Dragon clan.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Natara was a vampire, but Movado dressed like he kind of wanted to be an orc.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm such the count right now. But yeah, no, I'd like to actually see them bring in some more races as well if they could. Like there's a vampire race, but like, let's say, I mean, who's let's say like an Oni. Let's say like they bring in like another Oni character. I mean, I know they've had Moloch and Draman. I mean, well, Draman wasn't really. Draman was originally a human, I think, but Moloch was his own Oni. But like, there's probably some more like Oni style characters, because also, wasn't it a thing with Ashra? Wasn't Ashra originally a demon-esque, and she wanted to escape the Netherrealm, and she could only do it if she killed a certain number of people with that sword of hers?
What they call it, the Chris or something like that. They call
Yeah.
the sword.
And then, like, when she got lifted out of the Netherrealm, the Chris stayed behind. So it'd be pretty cool to see if someone else came along from the Netherrealm that picked up that sword and then became part of the Mortal Kombat-esque arena, from the Netherrealm itself.
If they go back to Mortal Kombat 1, like the first ever tournament, they could bring all that in. Races that don't exist by the time Mortal Kombat 9 and 10 kick in, the ones that we've played. You know what I mean? I think they could have a lot of different races in them that have been wiped out because of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
like taking over or whatever. I think, yeah, I agree with you. I'd like to see different races, and I think it's a great opportunity to see different races if they decide to sort of start from scratch again.
Well, they still kind of do bring them in here and there. Like you look at Devora,
She's
the
the
Kai
last of her
Ting,
kind. She's the last of her
they're,
kind, or something, isn't she?
they're all, but what I mean is like the Kai Ting were never heard of before
Yeah,
NKX. For us as players, all of a sudden, bam, there's a new race there.
Mm.
You know
yeah,
what I mean? You could say the same about like you've got Reptile and what Zarian.
yeah,
You've got tons and tons of different races, tons of different peoples throughout. Like even Outworld itself is populated by what centaurs. You've got Shokans. You've got Tarkatans. There are tons and tons of them. So you
yeah,
could drop them into a game at any time and say they've always been there. What is a collector? You know what I mean? All of a sudden he come out of
yeah.
nowhere. We've never seen
Mm.
anything like him.
And
You know
bring
what I
back
mean?
Montaro.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I love Motaro. I feel bad for him because he's just too big. That's an issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
too big and they can't work him into a game.
And they tried to bring him back in
a
Armageddon and said he's like, oh, this curse. It's like,
Minotaur.
no.
Yeah, give him his back legs back. Like Ed, we know you're watching. Give him his back legs.
Yeah.
Surely the tech nowadays will give you allowing you to give him his back legs.
I reckon the issue there was they couldn't make him walk sidestep without looking really silly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I reckon that's
I
why
thought it
they
was the
took
memory.
off his back legs. You know, that's just my take on it. I could be completely wrong. I reckon they just couldn't suss out a way to make something with horse legs sidestep in a fighting game without looking completely off. You know.
They're back at the 2D plane, and they could definitely add him back in now. You just take up a lot of the screen.
Mm. I'd love to see him return to the boss. I'd love to see Moloch return to the boss as well. He
Yeah.
didn't get a fair crack at a whip, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
I
just like the Deadly Alliance's little like he's like the what are they called? You know, from Star Wars, the thing underneath Jabba the Hutt's throne. He's like that little kind of monster
That little
dude.
goblin-looking dude.
No, not the goblin. You know, the big massive monster lad with the.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
He was in the Mandalorian. Yeah, I think Moloch was kind of just one of those guys. Oh, throw him to Moloch. Moloch will kill him. Yeah, Rancor. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
They could definitely put Blaze back as like the main villain. He could definitely hold his own. Like
exactly,
not a great one.
if they're basically switching the story around, it could be that he was never really built for the task at hand that he was doing for the two Elder Gods in Armageddon. It could just be that he's a standard fighter now, traveling the realms, and then he comes across Mortal Kombat tournament and gets into it, gets involved. You know.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Onaga returning because I just love him.
Naga's
I
good.
think he's fantastic. You know.
Yeah.
Imagine going all the way back to the time when Onaga was ruling Outworld.
That's what I want to happen. Yeah, I'd love to see that, man.
But they could. That's what I feel like they've signed up for. Like, is going back to those type of times. Like, I hope it is. They are. That's what they're working on. Is number 12, and it's not going to be a Justice League or was it Marvel versus DC or anything like that.
Yeah. No. Definitely. Oh, excuse me. Well, I think that we've talked a lot about the games now, to be honest, and like our favorites and our least favorites and stuff like that. So, Petzo, are you still good, or how are you looking for time?
Give me another 10 minutes and I'm good.
All right, we'll do it fairly quickly. So, just real quickly. So, the movies. Jump into the movies. So the movies there's Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins. That was the cartoon one before the original actual Mortal Kombat movie. It was kind of setting it up for it. There's the Mortal Kombat movie itself. There's the best one ever, Annihilation, because you can't fault that for anything.
Don't you dare say anything bad about Annihilation.
And then obviously you've got the newest one, the Mortal Kombat 2021 movie that happened. And then there was the two animated ones, The Scorpion's Revenge and Battle of the Realms. Petzo, you and me did a reaction on Battle of the Realms trailer before it came out, and then we watched it ourselves. Insane. So out of all those films, obviously, like we enjoy the majority of them, really. To Do we have we all love obviously the original Mortal Kombat movie for various ways, and obviously we thought like there were a few things that we thought could be improved on and stuff.
It probably hasn't aged well, but like at the time it was very, very good.
Exactly, yeah. I think right now, to be quite honest, I think Sonic has surpassed it now and probably the best like video game movie esque, if you get me.
Sonic 2 is really good.
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah,
good.
we watched it at the weekend.
Yeah, I watched it the other week as well. It's very good, very good. No spoilers, but it is like, I mean, you should go if you haven't seen it. Definitely go see it. Like, I feel it's like definitely up there. I don't know if it could be surpassing it, but like the Mortal Kombat itself, like a movie, has a special place in everyone's hearts. Really, Annihilation. God, what can I say about Annihilation, guys? Huh? What can we say?
It's like they took all the good things out of the first film and went, "We're not going to do any of them."
It's budget MK, isn't it? It's absolute budget MK.
Yeah.
It feels the way Armageddon plays. You know, it really is.
Yeah.
A lot of quick cameos from various fighters. Like Johnny died in the first 5 minutes. Nightwolf was there just to show Liu Kang how to get his animality, and he was gone. And then Jade was there to do a few fights, and then she was gone. And then Rain was there for like 3 seconds, and then he gets hammered into oblivion.
Don't forget CGI.
They called some old dude Shinnok just for the crack.
Yeah. Yeah, the CGI battle at the end between the two dragons.
Oh yeah, best battle ever. Yeah. And then don't forget Baraka as well. Baraka, he just came in, he started swinging on the chain, and then he got kicked into the fire. It's just like,
I wouldn't mind when he did that little roll across the floor. You can see his entire arm blade bend. You know, he rolled across the floor.
Yeah.
And not only did they kill off Johnny Cage in the opening scene, they recast him.
Yes,
they wasn't
did,
even the same dude.
Yeah.
They killed Johnny Cage. And, I'm like,
and same with Raiden.
That wasn't Johnny Cage. You know?
And same with Raiden as well. It wasn't Christopher Lambert. I think he did a fantastic job in MK1. And I was very, very happy to see him kind of come back as a skin in MK11 as well for various lines and stuff.
Bridget Wilson didn't return as Sonya Blade either. It was a different lady playing Sonya Blade too.
That was meant to be Cameron Diaz, but she broke her wrist or something. In the original movie.
Lucky lady.
Yeah.
Bullet, man.
She was meant to be in the first film, and the other girl took over.
Oh, in MK1.
Yeah. So, but she was doing another film, and she broke. I think it's her wrist or her ankle or something like that, and because of that, she
stepped in.
Yeah, she stepped in then as Sonya Blade. Yeah.
And don't forget the best movie.
That's cool.
Best movie line ever in a movie. Too bad you will die. I do admit though, the Raiden versus Reptile fight, I thought that was pretty cool as it kind of went on, but then that only really lasted for a few minutes. Same with the kind of Liu Kang versus Reptile movie. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It felt like they were trying to redo that, like in the recent X-Men movies where they did the Quicksilver scene in 2 different films. I tried to outdo it in the second time around because they were like, hey, that scene worked in the first one. Let's just do that again. That's kind of how the Raiden Reptile scrap felt,
Yeah.
And then all in all, it was just very, very rushed as well, with a lot of the fights ending within 3 seconds and stuff like that as well. The new Mortal Kombat that came out there 2021, I only liked it for some of the nostalgic throwbacks and stuff. The story to me wasn't great. The fact that they needed this dragon tattoo to unlock their abilities and stuff, I thought was very stupid. And the fact how like Shang Tsung's there basically killing off everyone, and Raiden's like, no, that's illegal before Elder Gods doesn't decree it, and he does fucking nothing to stop it except for at the end when he just sparks Shang Tsung, not even kills him, sends him back off somewhere else so he can just do this all over again, probably tomorrow.
Why didn't he do that at the start?
Oh, you know, exactly. I mean, just don't get me. Go on.
I liked the tattoo thing because it was new. Like, it just seemed to be such a good concept. Like the way Kano had his because he killed somebody else previously, and it made me go, "Oh, I wonder who he killed." Like, is it someone we know? Is it someone we haven't met yet? You know, like how did he get his? And I kind of like that idea of it, like where this tournament happens every 100 years, and only the best of the best can get in, and this tattoo is the way to be the best. Because if you are the best and someone kills you, they become the best. And I kind of like that aspect to it, though I will say the film is full of plot holes, as you've pointed out, like where Raiden could have teleported anybody anywhere at any stage. But like, the tattoo part of it was one of the parts I did actually kind of go, you know what, that's not a bad, like 100% bad take on how you get involved in Mortal Kombat. How you like, because if it was just anybody, you'd have like Conor McGregor would show up at Mortal Kombat, you know, but it seemed to be the tattoo was like this person had certain spells or powers to like unique to them that made them special, and then if someone did happen to kill them, it meant that next person was more special than them, you know, that way. So I kind of like that aspect to it, but there was a lot of plot holes in the film as well.
Don't get me wrong though,
Live
the
made the
actors
revelation
are
of
great.
Yeah, like Kung Lao dying in it was upsetting.
Oh,
I was like,
absolutely, yeah.
a great character to just rip off in the first film.
Like, don't get me wrong now, the actors and all from the films and all were great. Obviously they just didn't really have a lot to work with. Like the guy I thought who played Kano was really funny. You know,
Yeah,
He
he
was
Cole,
brilliant. He
like,
stole the show, man. He was top dog for
yeah,
sure.
the Cole character in interviews, the director and the writers have said the studio turned around and said, we want a character that's new and that is playing the audience. That's so they, when things are being explained to the audience, they're being explained to this new character, and this new character is our window into this world. And I get where they were coming from, but they could have just picked Johnny Cage.
Yeah, that character should have been Johnny Cage.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
every
should have, yeah.
aspect of that
yeah.
was.
Johnny
I
Cage could
believe
have
that
easily been that character.
I believe that they were originally writing Johnny Cage into the flick, but the dialogue was so good for Kano and for Johnny Cage that it almost felt like it was the same character talking to himself. So
Yeah,
they wrote Johnny Cage out,
yeah,
which it does leave it open for the sequel, and we get to see the Johnny Cage poster. And it's like, oh my god! But the whole thing is lacking because of the lack of Johnny Cage. Instead, you've got this ham-fisted character thrown in there. Who big shout out to the guy. I think he seems like a really nice guy. I follow him on Twitter, but he's not a good actor. He's a grand martial artist. He's not a good actor. The
ouch.
character was not good, and
No.
his special power is literally to have his butt kicked. You know, it just if it wasn't for him, I probably would have enjoyed the film. Like there were a lot of good aspects.
Yeah.
I loved Sub Zero with it. I thought Sub Zero was fantastic. It
Oh
was
yeah.
so
Best
nasty.
character. He stole the
You
show
know,
for me, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. Kano was fantastic. Kung Lao was perfect. Absolutely, he was just so Kung Lao.
That
You know,
man looked like he came out of the first game. Like they literally
genuinely, yeah.
pulled the actor out of the first game and went, bang, you're in the film now. And
Mm.
he was spot on to how I imagined the character would look, sound, act. That lad was superb out of everybody that was there. Like I did find it weird that they walked and in the desert and just randomly bumped into like Liu Kang.
Liu Kang.
it's like
Oh, hello.
Liu Kang should have his own story. Like he should have his own backstory and everything, and build up to like he should have had something happen to him that made him appear in that desert and bump into the other people. He
Yeah.
should just
But he
be
does.
there. He's like the best character in the game.
He explained his whole backstory to Sonya at one stage.
Yeah.
About how he got the Kana, how he got the dragon, and why he was in that temple. So he does kind of have his own backstory. I also love the kind of thinner and more soft spoken vibe that we get off Liu Kang. He's
Yeah,
very
definitely.
different from the Liu Kang in the video games, who's like
Hmm.
6'7" and built like a monster. You know, I like this kind of
Yeah.
this narrow Liu Kang. I think it really works in a very light voice that goes with him. But yeah, unfortunately, Cole Young just it really bothers me that they have so many things lined up that could work really well for this movie, but you have this central figure who means and does nothing throughout. But at the end of the movie, then you've got the likes of Sonya Blade, you've got Major Jackson Briggs, and they're taking orders from this new guy. He's like, you go to here, you fight Reiko. You go here, you fight Melina, for example. And
Mm.
they're all saying, yes, I will. Instead of anybody saying, hang on, when did Cole Young become our CEO?
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
know, what
yeah,
kind of training did this guy have? 2 minutes ago, he was having a butt kicked by Goro. You
yeah.
know, it's just such a missed opportunity, that movie. It
That,
really is. When
but
it
that's just
works, it works. But
the
when
other
it
thing is
doesn't, it's dire.
he kills Goro, and Goro's apparently won 10 or 9 tournaments in a row.
Yeah, yeah, there's no way he would have killed Goro. I
Yeah,
wouldn't believe it. And Goro, Prince Goro, man, you know, and they make this big thing about him showing up. It's great to have royal choking blood on our side. And then they teleport Goro into this dude's shed. Really? Prince Goro? You're going to
yeah,
teleport him into a shed to take out a nobody?
yeah.
No, it doesn't wash with me, man. The little Laura fan inside me gets really, really irked with that movie. And I find it unfortunate because I keep going to watch it again. And I have to stop myself. You know,
Yeah,
I
I know, right?
genuinely have to,
Yeah.
because
I
I
feel
know it's going to annoy me. You know,
I
I
feel
know
you
that.
can't really give out about Goro getting his ass kicked by Cole because in the games we had Shinnok get his ass kicked by Cassie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that they should have built up to Goro. Like, so there was
Yeah.
no mention. There was no mention that there was 9 tournaments beforehand. Like, we knew there was tournaments beforehand. We didn't know how many, and the fact that Goro has won them all, he should have been left for when we actually did the tournament. So they were like, "Oh, here's Goro. He's actually won the last 9 tournaments." We're like, "Holy shit, he's won 9 tournaments, and we're meant to win this one," you know. But instead, he just appears in your man's shed. There he is. It's a bit lackluster. You know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind the trailer has that one clip where you see the two arms coming out and about to open the door and two
Yeah.
more arms come out down below. And just from that one shot in the trailer, I went crazy. I thought this looks fantastic. 'Cause
Mm.
I thought that was like an old Japanese housing, you know what I mean? That he was
Yeah.
opening the door, like something more akin to where we saw Scorpion in the start of the movie. I was like, they're gonna show him fight against they're gonna show him fight Great Kung Lao. They're gonna do the history of MK.
Hmm.
No, he's in a dude's shed.
Isn't it?
You know, it's very disappointing.
Yeah, yeah. I honestly think the first film, because they didn't go into the tournament at all, the first film could have been Scorpion versus Sub-Zero and a whole epic backstory to just them. And then they could have, at the end of the film, whatever way they went with it or whatever way they took it, it could have ended in our now times at this tournament and the build up and a little bit like if they had planned for this actress to play Sonya or whatever, it could have been a little clip of her trying to put a team together, you know, that way, and then left it open to that. And then in the next second film, we would have got pretty much what we got in this film, but without the backstory to Scorpion and Sub-Zero, because we already would have seen a whole movie about it. And then in the third film, we would have seen this massive big tournament, all these characters, we would have had 2 movies of build up to this huge big tournament. And I think that's where they should have gone with it. Like, but
That would have been dope. That would have
yeah,
been really good.
Yeah.
the problem is that they can't sell a Mortal Kombat movie, to just gamers because there's not enough of us. They need to sell it to children. They need to make it like the families. It needs to
Don't
work
sell it
for
to
everybody.
children. Jesus, man.
Yeah, geez,
Oh,
18 plus.
No, but they need to advertise it in such a way that it's not going to be just for gamers. So you have to remember, if somebody say like my girlfriend Lydia's watched it and she knows nothing about Mortal Kombat, only from when we did our podcast and we talked to the Galway Gamer and Payne and we talked all about the history and stuff like that. Like her first sort of taste of Mortal Kombat was when we made her, well, when I made her watch the animated one, Scorpion's Revenge. And at the end of that, she was like, "That's actually a really good story. I really enjoyed that." So I went, "Oh, you might like the next one that's coming out, which was the Battle of the Realms." And she was like, "Ah, there's too much going on in that one." And then we watched, we watched the film like before that one, and she was kind of like, oh, "I liked it, but there was like a lot going on." But she didn't know the history of the characters. Like when I'm watching Kano beat Kano, I'm like, "Yeah, that's Kano." She just thinks it's some guy being gobby. You know what I mean? Like it's different for people who haven't played the game since since they were kids, like we have. And I feel like that's where the filmmakers struggle, to the sense that how much fandom do we need to put into these films to make people watch them, and how much like expedition do we need to put in to let new people know what the fuck's going on, because they could throw in random stuff that us three would get straight away, but someone who's never seen it before would be like, what's going on? So they have to explain it. And I think that's where a lot of our negative stuff comes from. Is like, oh, they had to go through all of this. They had to go through all of that. Yeah, like where we just want them to get to the point because we know where it's going.
But if they are to explain it, surely explaining it to Johnny Cage, where that is part of his story, would be
I agree.
optimal.
I
You
agree
know,
with you there. I do agree with you there. I think the
it would make
call.
the movie as a whole a lot more enjoyable because,
Yeah.
well, those who aren't familiar with Mortal Kombat can get behind it because he's funny, he's charming, and he's a bit of a butthole. And
Yeah.
those who are familiar, like ourselves, would enjoy it because we already know he's funny, charming, and a bit of a butthole. You
Yeah.
know.
I'd also love to see him and Kano in a sort of a comedy scene together, where Johnny Cage is taking the piss in a positive way and Kano's taking the piss in a negative way. Just to see those two combined. They're both nearly agreeing with each other, but in a negative and a positive way. Like, I think that would have been a great combination to them fighting with each other and stuff like that as well. Because they're like, Kano would be pissed off that he's agreeing with him, but he's making it a lot more positive than he's going to fuck off. Like, So I don't know. There's a way they definitely could have put Johnny Cage in there instead of. It could have completely followed instead of your man being a UFC fighter. It could have been Johnny Cage filming, and the exact same story. The exact same story. It doesn't make any sense why they put a brand new character in it.
And they don't even spell his surname with a K.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I have to say, this is a little bit of a dig now, but I do have to say, you knew there was something going to be wrong when Ed Boon never tweeted a single thing about the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. And that begs a question as well. How come, like, when the creators of like Street Fighter or Tekken tweet out things, the world doesn't bleed and stop, but when Ed Boon posts out something, that's it. The world comes to a standstill. We're like people are.
They're on a troll, man. That's why you have to decipher what Ed says. Like,
Yeah.
He, like I said, he's a character, and he knows he has every one of us under his thumb.
Yeah.
He knows that when he posts, he can post anything, and he'll have us all guessing because he's been doing this since the first game, having tiny secrets here and there, and been doing so now, as we said, for 30 years. You know, so he knows when he does that now in front of the world on Twitter, everything stops. Yep.
Yeah.
I do have to say though, I feel a bit sorry for when new people come into the project and they don't know what the online social part of Mortal Kombat is like. I mean, if you ever see about it, whenever Ed Boon says one little thing, everyone's like, "Oh, Melina for Combat Pack 2," or this, that, and the other. But then you come down to the people who are saying, like, put this character in it, or I'm going to come to your house and do this to you, or that to your family.
They're weird,
and you're like, what the fuck? Like, do you know what I mean? And like, I know it actually got brought up a good number of times during MKX and MK11 because it was just so bad, because it was these fucking, I don't know, people like saying, put this character in it, or I'm going to find your family and do this. And it's just like, chill the fuck out. It's literally a game. And they don't have to give you anything. Do you know that sort of way? They don't have to follow you at all. It's like they've been doing this for the last 30 years. They know damn well what they're doing. It's like they might give you a little bit of a taste or something. Do you know what I mean? And I know there was a lot of people for Melina, and I know they went off on that like so many times. Ed did tweet a lot of stuff and all, but eventually they did bring Melina into it via the Combat Pack. That sort of way. So like a lot of the times it's in the back of Ed's mind that he's going to bring these characters in at some stage. But if you're gonna be real, like an absolute excuse my French, cunt about it, like literally, and say, put this character in it, or else I'm going to do this or that or the other. I mean, you don't deserve you don't deserve their loyalty at all. Do you know what I mean? You don't even
No,
deserve these games at all if that's your attitude towards this thing. Do you know what I mean?
no. I think there's like
Unfortunately,
go on. Sorry, no, you go on. Owen.
sorry, I was just going to say, unfortunately, that's ripe throughout the gaming spectrum
Oh, I know.
online.
Yeah.
It's not just MK, and that makes it even more unfortunate that there are these absolute cretins everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's absolutely shameful, and I think it gives video games as a whole a bad name. It genuinely does.
Mm.
Yeah.
Screw those guys.
I think when it comes to Mortal Kombat, there's like 15 characters that have to be in a game. Like your Johnny Cage, your Scorpion, your Sub-Zero. There's at least 15 characters that we can all agree they're definitely going to be in the game, and then it's the next 15 that we're all going to argue about.
Mm.
Like like my big thing was when Reptile didn't get a shout out for 11. I was like, oh, that's my character, man. I was like, and it does feel it's like your favorite football team not making it to the Champions League. It's kind of like I do feel that way. Now I never get abusive with anybody. I don't understand that, but I can definitely understand everyone's disappointment.
Yeah,
I
but
think.
go on.
Sorry, I think my favorite character Katana, I reckon, is going to miss the next game. Just judging by the rotation, because out of the 3 original female ninjas, she has missed the game in way too long. So Jade missed one there a little while ago. So did Melina. And Katana has been in every one of them. If you rotate those 3, it is Katana's time to sit a game out. I'm not sure if they'll work it that way, but on paper it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm. I do think as well, when it comes to like characters not being in the game, it creates this opportunity also for the community to start like remembering the good times and like getting a bit of positive you know talk about various characters sometimes when stuff gets left out and all, because I'm doing a Mortal Kombat animation, as you guys already know, around the conquest mode, and not to give a lot of it away, there is one particular let's say side quest that I got one of the characters to do. Shao Kahn commands you to go around and give out the letters to who's unfortunately not going to be in the next Mortal Kombat, is one of the quest lines I thought would be hilarious. So I have literally the said main character go over to the likes of Chameleon and Reptile and all this, saying, unfortunately you didn't make it into Mortal Kombat 11. Here's your letter of apology. And then like literally they literally go like this is kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but exclusive for the podcast, they get so pissed off they end up performing a harakiri on themselves basically because they just thought they were so shit they didn't make it into MK11. So it's stuff like that, like if the opportunities are there for when characters don't really get into a game straight off the bat, and they might do it at a later stage, or else it just creates a lot of good talk about it for maybe the next one or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So there's always a good reason sometimes when the game doesn't automatically bring out specific characters. But God forbid the day, and it's probably going to be the next MK, where you say, Petzo, it just resets everything and all our characters aren't there. Do you know what I mean? It's all different, like ancestor characters and stuff like that. People are probably just going to hit the wall.
People are going to go mad, but people will love the refresh
Exactly.
of that as well.
I
know
will.
that, like, and a load of DLC with the old characters mixing in that's non-canon will sell well, will work well. Like here's DLC with Sonya, Jax, Johnny Cage, and Cassie Cage. What I mean? Like that's going to sell well.
Exactly.
So that's how I think. I think that's how they'd go with it, but like I'm sure they've got plans for exactly what they're going to go. Look, apparently they've skipped Injustice to go back to Mortal Kombat 12. So I don't know if that's just a rumor or not, but if that's the case, like they've obviously got a big plan behind them. Like
again, yeah.
I was just thinking about missing characters there. Just doing a bit of math in my head, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Sub-Zero is the only character, if you take both Sub-Zeros to be a single character, both
Yeah.
Kuai Liang and Baihan, if you count him as a single character, then I believe Sub-Zero is the only character never to miss a mainstream Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah, because he has his own Mortal Kombat as well.
I don't think there's been anybody else who didn't make the roster, who made the roster for absolutely everyone.
Yeah, Sub-Zero is Sub-Zero is the only person who has appeared. He's appeared in the most Mortal Kombat games.
Because like you've got what 7 characters in the original. Sonya and Kano never made the second game. Liu Kang never made Deadly Alliance. Who else have we got in the first one? Scorpion never made number 3. I know he came back in Ultimate and so on, but never made the base roster for number 3. Johnny Cage never made number 3 either. Raiden never made number 3. I think pulling the fingers here left and right. That leaves Sub-Zero exclusively to be the only MK character to make the roster of every main game. That's bonkers. That's weird.
Yeah, I would have thought Raiden, but I don't think he's in every game.
He's not in Mortal Kombat 3. He's not even in
3.
Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. He sits that one out.
Oh, thought he was in 3 now. That's mad.
Which Kano?
No, I thought Raiden wasn't. I was thinking when you said it originally, I was like Raiden, and now that I'm googling it, it is Sub-Zero. You're right, but I can't think of a game that I didn't pick Raiden in, and I would have thought he was in number 3.
There was a few.
Number 3 in Ultimate 3.
Yes,
He came back in the trilogy, but so did everybody.
But that just shows you as well. Like, if Scorpion wasn't in MK3, so if Scorpion wasn't in MK3, that means that they can drop some of these main characters that have to be in every bleeding one,
But that's why they rushed out Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 there, was to put him in there because everybody needed him.
Yeah.
So it didn't really go their way.
Yeah, true.
To go on because I don't want to keep you any too much longer. I want to go on just a few little more questions, and let's not try and ramble because I know we love to do that. Just really quickly, what do you guys think of the guest characters in the games? I know Ed loves putting them in because he wants to someday create a big, massive horror-esque type game of killing them all. That's why he's got Freddy and all coming into it. But do you feel it's probably best to maybe either only have 1 or 2 and have the rest as Mortal Kombat characters? Because that's a lot of people think there's way too many guest characters in the new Mortal Kombat games.
There's way too many. I would love to see a game with Freddy Krueger, Jason, Mike Myers.
Funny enough, there is actually a game out of that, but I don't think it's not a proper game, if you get me. I think it was made by someone as a fan, and it's very well done. It's like a proper 2D Mortal Kombat-esque with all the horror games, like Pumpkinhead's in it.
Pumpkinhead, like what's the toy, the Chucky, all them, like Hellraiser. I'd love to see a fighting game with all of them kind of fighting for like humanity, and then have like Ash and stuff like that in there from the like I'd love like from a sort of 80s, 90s and early 2000s horror genre of fighting all these monsters and heroes fighting each other would be fantastic. But I hate when they put it all into Mortal Kombat. Like Freddy and Jason were brilliant in 9, and then 10 had the Predator and Alien, and that was good. But then 11 had Rambo and Terminator, and I just felt like they weren't really
RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop. They were very horror-esque. They didn't really fit into it as much. And then I felt like, that game was already missing a lot of the main characters like Melina and stuff like that. And I think the DLC they could have had one DLC of all these random characters and one DLC of all these MK characters, and see which sells better. And then they would know their answer to what instead of putting one random one that you had to have that you didn't want. They'd have an answer of what was more popular, all these film characters or all these Mortal Kombat characters. And I think that would have stopped the rest of the DLC for like future games.
Owen?
Oh, I hate them. I genuinely do. I hate to be that guy,
Wow.
but I absolutely hate them. I think that they make the whole thing feel cheap.
Yeah.
Um, and even more so when they seem so random as well. So there you've got Leatherface and Rambo coexisting in the same world as Havoc. How does that make any sense? You know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't I know why they're in there. I know that since NetherRealm became a part of Warner Brothers, they have to bow to the Warner Brothers. Therefore, they have to do a couple of bits and pieces that they want to do as well. I totally get that, but I just don't think it works. I think it makes everything feel cheaper. It makes Mortal Kombat feel like it doesn't believe in itself. Mortal Kombat is this wide, multi-dimensional, multi-time lineal, um, uh, huge, overarching story with so many different races. You don't need an untrained hick with a chainsaw running around in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Like how on earth would Leatherface step up to somebody who's been training their entire life for this? How would he step up against somebody like Cabal who can run at the speed of light? Like, you know what I mean? How would he possibly survive a fist fight against these people? He simply wouldn't. He'd be torn apart. You've and it just yeah, I think cheap is probably the best way to put it. It feels like it's selling itself to be something that it's not. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
not selling itself as Mortal Kombat. It's selling itself to something else. And it's selling itself as a place for all these random characters from age-old movies to be something of a adult Smash Brothers, if you will. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's unfortunate because it's so rich. It's so rich in lore and in characters and in all these different worlds that they built up for years upon years, and then just to sell it off like that all of a sudden over the last 10 years. And you can see how popular this sale of itself became then, because you go to pretty much any one of Ed Boon's tweets, and people are out there saying, bring Chucky in, bring Pinhead in, bring this character in, bring that character in. And I'm always on a back seat, going,
Yeah.
no man, bring Ashraf back, bring back Natara, bring Bo Right Joe, bring all these
Yeah.
actual Mortal
Yeah,
Kombat
exactly.
characters who
Yeah.
exist and breathe within this universe that you created. You know what I mean? It
Mm.
seems just bonkers to me that they'll just uh, cheapen themselves in this
Yeah.
way after building something so fantastic, something that
Yeah.
took over the world. You know what I mean? It's changed video games as we see them.
Mm.
Like games wouldn't be what they are today if Mortal Kombat hadn't have done what Mortal Kombat did back in the 1990s. And then they're like, yeah, but we'll throw in Rambo. You know what I mean? It's just
Mm.
it
Yeah.
really bothers me. It really does. And
I,
this is something that I've dedicated myself to my entire lifetime. You know what I mean? I have been a Mortal Kombat fan since the original Mortal Kombat. And to see it do that, it would be like seeing your favorite heavy metal band release a country album. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
it's completely out of what they do. It cheapens the entire name MK for
Yeah.
me.
I'd love like if they like when Freddy. I think Freddy was the first sort of DLC that was like out of Mortal Kombat,
Hmm.
and I remember playing as him, going, you know what, he, and I remember thinking to myself, God, he fits into this world quite well. Like in and now, I'm not into the MK world, but I mean into the gameplay, like as fatalities, X-rays. He just felt like, you know what, that character really worked with those gameplay moments.
Yeah.
And then when Jason came in, I was like the same thing. Alien vs Predator, same thing. Even Leatherface, I would have gone for it, same thing. And then Rambo and Terminator really didn't feel like they sat well, and RoboCop. Um, but then I was like, Jesus, imagine a game that was like MK10, like MKX, and was just no MK characters, all 80s, 90s, early 2000s horror like
I'd
esque
play the hell
characters.
out of that.
I'd buy the fucking hell out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if that was 40 quid DLC to a Mortal Kombat game, I'd pay €40 for that. I was like, that is what like a little like you were saying earlier on about the karting and the chess. If this was that extra part and we had to pay an extra 40 quid for it, and it came with like 9 characters, that was all those sort of horror-esque characters, I'd 100% be on top of that. I'd be that's perfect. But like leave my Mortal Kombat alone. Let me have more Mortal Kombat characters. There's like over 100 Mortal Kombat characters, and I would like to see them all in a game.
And the issue is as well that DLC, when it comes to fighting games like Mortal Kombat, is so invasive. Like DLC for practically any other genre, anything else you can think of. Let's say Tomb Raider. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, for example, had 3 or 4 DLCs. You don't have to play them. You don't need them. It's not essential in any way, shape, or form. If you want them, they're there. That's grand. They don't affect the gameplay as it is.
Yep.
But with Mortal Kombat, it's hugely invasive because even if you don't buy these DLCs, the characters still show up in game. The characters will still be in the single player game as you're going through the towers. They will still be online. You'll have to fight them. They are still there. They are still tarnishing the DMK experience, whether you want them to or not. The only way to stop that from happening is to not patch the game once they get announced. And if you don't patch the game, you don't get all your you don't get to go online for starters, but you also don't get all your balance patches, which are absolutely essential. So there's no escaping these characters once they add them in. If you do want just a pure Mortal Kombat experience, too bad. They are there in your game, like it or not, and that kind of sucks,
Yeah. Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah, I'm not really for it either. Right. Well, we got that out of the way anyway. So we hate guest characters. Yeah. Well, if they did, they do them right. If they can do them right, they're happy days. If not,
look, Payne, I have to head off because it's 11 o'clock now. But look, this has been amazing, and you two guys finish it off in style. Thank you very much for having me on. I'd love to talk more Mortal Kombat in the future, which is as well because I have lots to say.
Well, we'll definitely get together when they start announcing the next Mortal Kombat, and we can do our own little reviews and thoughts and stuff about it. Anyway,
what do you think they're working on right now?
I personally think, he said in an interview, we were doing Injustice and we were doing Mortal Kombat, so our next game is going to come to light of why we were doing what we've been doing. So I honestly think they're going back into bringing Injustice and Mortal Kombat into the one scene again. Because obviously Scorpion's been in Injustice, Raiden's been in Injustice, and of course Joker's been in Mortal Kombat. I feel they're going to be doing another crossover thing like that again. I just have it in my head, but I really do hope I'm wrong, and I do hope it's Shaolin Monks too.
Right. With that being said, thanks very much for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Sorry I have to leave before we end. I have to go do stuff.
No worries, man.
Go on. See you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
See you later, brother.
This is gonna mess up the logos now, isn't it? Yeah. Let me just redo the logos here.
Do your thing, sir. Do your thing.
We actually got a good bit talked about anyway before he had to leave. We kind of had a little go through on the movies and stuff like that as well, and then obviously we had a look at the movies, the movies and the guest character and stuff. The next thing I want to talk about, I don't know how well you know it. Have you watched the TV shows?
I have not. I've heard lately that it's actually quite good and well worth checking out. I remember when it was doing the rounds, I thought it looked like a kind of a cheap Xena warrior princess. And although I was a big Xena fan, I kind of didn't want to watch what looked to me like a watered down version, But I'm familiar with the cartoons, so I watched those, the Defenders of the Realms.
Yeah, Defenders of the Realm now, one I would never actually kind of touched off, but I think I can remember this one thing. Combat time! Combat time!
Combat time!
That's all I can remember from that.
Our other catchphrase was "kiss off."
Kiss off. Wow.
Kiss off.
But
It wasn't great.
I've had a little bit of a clips being watched here and there. It looked pretty funny. I thought it was going to be like another journey begins type thing, because I don't know if you've ever watched that. You saw that the same scene played like 2 or 3 times before they went on to something else and stuff like that. But no, it actually looked like a proper kind of fleshed out, like sort of old style cartoon X-Men or Transformers-esque type game, show, which was pretty cool. It was more, I think it was more for merch. I think that one was merch, and I think they wanted to see if they were able to kind of throw it up as a kind of a cartoon that kids would like. But it's not
Saturday morning. All right, it was definitely aimed at kids. You haven't missed much. It is worth checking out just for the trivia side of things, if nothing else, but it's definitely not going to change your world.
And then the next thing obviously is Mortal Kombat Conquest from back in the day. And I personally, like, when I was a kid, I would try and watch this every chance I got. I remember one time I was actually watching an episode, and I think my granddad was in the room with me as well, and he was like, "What the hell is this?" And he turns it off, puts on football. I'm like, "No!" But luckily, like now, as I said, like, you were able to record live TV back then. So I basically got a big, massive thing of tapes, and I used them. I basically made sure I recorded each episode every time it came on the TV and all. So and also Conquest, I think, is one of the first times I think we ever see like evil triumph at the end of it, being a main sort of story-esque, if you get me. From obviously, you remember the ending of the part where Raiden and Shao Kahn, played by the same actor, by the way, which I thought was very cool. When I
heard that, yeah,
because they were there fighting each other at the end of it and all that sort of stuff. And there's literally the same actor. Obviously, it was stuntmen for some of it and all, but it's still really cool the way it was done. And then ending up like while they're both in locks of Mortal Kombat, secretly out in the outside world, all the good guys are getting killed by Shao Kahn's shadow priests. And then by the end of it, Shao Kahn brings in Raiden, pretty much beaten to a pulp, and he's there saying, "Oh, this guy's dead, this girl's dead, this guy's dead." And then at the end of it, he just goes, "You will bow to me." And then it just goes off to show a Mortal Kombat medallion, and then that was the end of it. It never got revived for a second season or something like that. But I always thought that was really cool, the way the whole thing. Also, the guy who played Shang Tsung, I thought he was really cool in it as well. I always enjoyed watching his performance in the game and stuff, or sorry, in the TV show and all as well. But I just always thought it was really cool at the end. It was spine tingling, that's for sure. But it was always cool. It was always cool to see Shao Kahn ending up winning at the end of it, like.
And did it just run for the one season then?
It did. It was. I think there was talks that it was going to be a second season, but it never got renewed for. Do you know what I mean? Which was a shame.
It's based around like the Great Kung Lao, is it, as opposed to modern day Kung Lao?
Yeah, the Great Kung Lao was what the guy was called. Raiden was there. There was a guy called Zero, and there was a girl, Taja, I think, if I'm not mistaken. They were the 4 main people, and then Shang Tsung, Shao Kahn, Scorpion was there, Sub-Zero was there, and I think the one point Rain was there, but I think he wasn't really. It had, like, the show had a good few of the actual characters and stuff. And it was pretty cool to see some, like, the story is, like you said, like Xena Warrior princess-esque type, the way the show ran and stuff. And it was pretty cool to see, like Scorpion's whole thing was he got murdered, but there was, like, they had a pet scorpion in the hideout of the Shiroryu, and it ended up going, like, onto him, and then kind of, like, went inside of him, and then he ended up becoming, like, the Scorpion and stuff like that. It wasn't Quan Chi giving him the powers or anything else like that. But funny enough, Quan Chi was in that show as well. which I thought was really cool and all as well. And it's the same with Reptile. But like it was really cool to see
That's
play out on TV
quite the
show.
cast of
Oh,
characters.
absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I was so bummed out when it wasn't renewed for a second season. But I think after that, I kind of forgot all about it. I was more focused on the games because I think after that we had like dial-up internet. Yes, people, dial-up internet, and all the fantastic fan sites that were around at the time of Mortal Kombat. Like I was going onto them any and all sorts of days to get any sort of information I could. It's just a shame Warner Brothers doesn't really like fan sites these days. That talk about Mortal Kombat, because I remember Total MK had a site. There was
I remember that, yeah.
Kamidogu had a site. MK Online had a
There
site.
was
Now,
Mortal
don't
Kombat Online,
mm,
Test Your Might, I believe, is still there. What was
mm,
the one I used to go to? Was it called the MK Temple or something to that effect?
yeah,
Which was also a cool place.
yeah.
Yeah, there were quite a few of them back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, there's still a few of them now. I think the main one is Mortal Kombat Warehouse, run by Murdoink on Twitter. I basically shouted him out because I got all the images that you're seeing there above from
That's
that
right,
are
they do
going
all the
through.
sprites and everything, don't they?
Exactly, yeah. So like
Yeah, yeah.
that's been a very cool sort of site to go to if you're ever looking for sprites and stuff. If you ever wanted to make animations and stuff, like shout out to him. He's been a big help for all sorts of MK communities members who ever want to do like sprite sheets and stuff like that. It's really cool. But it's just a shame that Warner Brothers don't like fan sites nowadays, sort of way. But then again, I don't think any sort of company hates criticism these days, sort of way. That was the thing with the fan sites. They weren't like scared to say, "Oh, I like this game's good, but this could have been improved or that could have been improved and all this," or else they just totally rip on it if they thought that the game was terrible. But now apparently they just hate that. They just if a one site says anything bad, they just cut off all contact with them. Is from what I get from Total MK, because he like Warner Bros. Basically turned their whole back on him. And he didn't even do anything that bad. Like, do you know what I mean? He just had like he was just asking questions and stuff like that during interviews and stuff, and they just didn't like it.
I know that fan sites in general are almost a thing of the past these days anyway, because they've been eclipsed by the likes of YouTubers. And YouTubers get out there and say their piece instead. It's just kind of it's almost a relic of the internet nowadays. The idea of a fan site and the idea of fan forums.
Mm. It's still cool though. It's still cool to go and see, being able to see. Like, I mean,
Oh,
this is the thing.
absolutely.
I mean, you can look up a Mortal Kombat wiki these days, and it has. Plus, there was I don't know if the Uppercut Productions on Twitter. They were
I
actually
don't.
they were in the process of doing a Mortal Kombat combat compendium, I think it was called, which was going to have every single backstory, lore, character, arena, like sound, like team member, all sorts of stuff. It was a
Mhm.
massive project, and they had gotten funding within 24 hours. They were looking for something like 30,000 or something like that to get it going, and they had over $75,000 like within 24 hours. So everyone wanted this book, and they sent me a few screenshots. They sent a load of people a few screenshots of the MK communities and stuff. Like Uncaged Games got in the prototype of the book and all, and then Warner Brothers told them to cease and desist.
Damn.
Exactly. And
I
because
know that.
they were saying apparently
Well,
they thought it wouldn't sell, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" It's like, how many people I've like they've already gotten the funding within
yeah.
24 hours? Do you know what I mean?
I know there's a new one out at the moment called another kind of documentive book like that called Long Live Mortal Kombat. I don't know who wrote it off the top of my head now, but I've seen it in the round at the moment on Twitter. Fantastic cover actually. The cover art piece has
Arcade machine.
kind of well-known fighting game characters hanging on the pit,
Yeah.
after being beaten by Mortal Kombat, which I
Mm.
think is very, very clever. When it comes to MK Buxton as well, Anthony Marquez, who plays Kung Lao in Fusion, actually has his own book out all about his life and how he got involved in Mortal Kombat called Kung Fu Rockstar. I
Mm.
believe Philip On, who plays Shang Tsung in MK2, also has one because he's actually a medical professional, and
He is,
his
yeah.
is all about going from Mortal Kombat to being a doctor. It's simply called Mortal Doctor. But I think the fact that these guys have their own books where you can find out the stories of MK from the people who were actually there is very, very cool.
And does Daniel Pesina have some stuff out as well, doesn't he? I think he's got some stuff out on it as well about his.
Not to the best of my knowledge. He could have, but I've never heard him mention a book now. I don't think so. I
I'm not
could
sure
be
about I'm not
mistaken.
sure a book per se, but I think he's got stuff out. Like he's got interviews and he's got he also, I think he's got his own. He's proper dojo, like a proper kung fu master. And he puts
That's
up a
right. Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
videos and stuff as well, which is really cool. It's always good to see him use the scorpion kunai and you know how he actually do it. Because I've always wondered if it's just a thing on a rope, how would you actually like use it proper? But then obviously when you saw the new Mortal Kombat movie, and then when he does it as well, you're like, oh shit,
Mhm.
like it's a proper deadly weapon. You know what I mean? So it's really cool to see.
The first time I was chatting with Pacino, I've worked with him a handful of times, and I was asking him about that weapon. He refers to it as a spear, as a rope dart. Where I wouldn't know that as a spear just from the video games, but he refers to it as a rope dart. So I'm going to take his word for it, you know. But he says that it's traditionally used apparently for pulling military down off horses
Mm.
during wars. And I'm thinking, that's savage. That is so cool. Something that never would have crossed my mind because we've only seen it digging into Johnny Cage's neck and being dragged across the pit, like, you know.
Yeah.
So the idea that that's what it was originally for was to bring military down to your own level so you can continue to fight, I think is phenomenal. It's crazy that you don't see this weapon in more media.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, definitely. Um, so I think that wraps up Conquest. But the other one I want to talk about, it's not really it's not really TV, but it's more like online show. Mortal Kombat Legacy. Don't know if you remember that when that was pitched. I
I
know,
do, yeah, yeah.
yeah. It was actually originally pitched as Rebirth. It was like a quick little 8 minute in real life type thing. I think Jax was there, Sonya, and they were interviewing Scorpion, and they were telling Scorpion, if you fight for Earthrealm in this tournament, and you know, oh look, so you're looking for this guy, Sub-Zero, he's going to be at the tournament, and Scorpion gets very intrigued and all, and then Legacy popped up, which was it was the Legacy season 1 was a machinima. It was machinima, wasn't it? Machinima's
It was actually Machinima, yes, yes.
yeah, Machinima's little thing at the beginning. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. It kind of went through each different like characters, like small little backstory. So Raiden, he came down from the heavens, but he ended up falling into this like mental asylum. Funny enough, and they just thought he was crazy, so they kept him there. And they kept sedating him and stuff like that. And then he befriended one of the inmates, and he got one of the inmates to kill him. And when he died, he was able to use his power to teleport out of there. And then he
Mhm.
ended up going into the real world. And then you saw, it was pretty cool. You saw this guy having one of the straw hat that Raiden normally wears, and he basically takes the straw hat off and puts it on himself and walks off. And then there's Raiden. And then they also showed off a pretty cool, like there was a Scorpion episode. I think there was Jackson Sonya with Kano. So it was a really cool like build up. And then the second one was actually meant to be like it was meant to be the tournament. And again, it was really cool. They got Carrie to reprise his role as Shang Tsung from the first MK
Right,
movie.
yeah, yeah.
And I thought that was awesome. That was just fantastic. And I know he loves helping out fans where he can as well. It was a little bit of a spoiler, but he was going to voice Shang Tsung for me in my Mortal Kombat animation originally.
Wow.
Yeah, originally. But then obviously I didn't really get anything back from him. But now I understand why, because they asked him to be Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 11.
That
So
makes sense, yeah,
so
yeah.
obviously he was under contract. He probably wouldn't have been able to do anything else other than side missions. So that was completely understandable. But yeah, he was at first he was like saying, "Oh, show me what kind of hype you have for this." And then everyone who was his followers saw the tweet and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'd like definitely want to do this and all that sort of stuff." And then he was like, "I'm in. I'll definitely do it." And then obviously, unfortunately, yeah, he signed the contract with Warner Brothers. But no, definitely, like I was more than happy to see him come back in a proper game. And then just being a
Mm.
voice on my animation, do you know what I mean?
And they showed him a lot of love in Mortal Kombat 11. They really
Oh,
did.
yeah, oh, absolutely.
It was perfect,
Mm.
absolutely perfect. You know,
Excuse me.
I
Yeah.
think Rebirth, I think is interesting because that was the day that Mortal Kombat took over the internet. Because that was that the day that that dropped online was the same day that Mortal Kombat 9 was announced. You couldn't move online for the amount of MK. It was absolutely marvelous. And Mortal Kombat Legacy then was made by the same dude, and I believe that that dude before that was working on. He worked on pop videos. That was his thing. That's how he made his cash.
Mm.
But he was a massive Mortal Kombat fan, so he pitched it as Mortal Kombat Rebirth to show basically, look, I can do this cool thing with Mortal Kombat. I can make this happen. I'm not just the dude who does Britney Spears videos, you know. And yeah, I thought the first season was absolutely spectacular. I loved the Katana Molina episode. I was a huge fan of the Sector and Cyrax episode. I thought
Oh yeah.
the martial arts in that was phenomenal. I
Mm.
thought it was really fun. But unfortunately, I think it completely lost it in the second season. I think it was just I found the second season messy, to be perfectly honest. I know what I wanted to see from it. I know what I wanted it to be. It just wasn't there for me, you know?
Yeah, they introduced Ermac as some weird hybrid creature that like was protecting Kenshi's sword, and he wasn't a telepathic. He just had these weird like snake smoke things that came out of him that wrapped around Kung Lao, or sorry, not Kung Lao, Kenshi when they were fighting and all as well. It was just
Hmm.
very odd. And then at the end, like Liu Kang, it was very interesting to see Liu Kang be kind of a bad guy in this one because originally, what was it? There was this gang that kept annoying and was it annoying his girlfriend or just annoying a girl or something? And then he came back and he basically just like properly killed the gang. And then Shang Tsung kind of like said, "Look, come work for me, and I'll do this, that, and the other." And he agreed. So he was able to convince Liu Kang to actually be on his side for the tournament. So that was very interesting to see. And then obviously Kung Lao was there trying to talk some sense into it. And then that's where Legacy Season 2 kind of finished up. It was literally like they were about to do the tournament. They were all there on the island getting ready to
Hmm.
do it. And then there was just no talk of Legacy Season 3 after that at all. I think they had pretty much moved on. And I think maybe the movie at that stage was probably in talks, possibly. Maybe that's why it didn't go any further. But it was just so sad to see because what I really kind of wanted to see how the story would have played out that Liu Kang was now on the bad guy's side and what was going to happen between all of them and like who would have survived and who wouldn't have survived, you know?
I think Liu Kang is infinitely more interesting when he has a bit of edge to him. I think the main core Liu Kang, I've always found him a little dry. But like Zombie Kang in the PS2 era, I love. The Revenant Kang, I think is absolutely fantastic in the newer games when he's
Mm.
King of NetherRealm. I think giving him a little bit of an edge like that, giving him maybe a little bit of devilment, if you will, I really think adds to the character. I think it makes him, yeah, just infinitely more interesting. It paints some color on what otherwise seems to be just like a bit of a canvas of a character. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I was very shocked at the end of MK9 when he just snapped and he basically went to go
Oh, it was
fight.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when he went to go fight Raiden, I was like, "Oh shit!" And then like Raiden ends up killing him, and I'm like, "Oh fuck!" It's like this is completely gone like in the opposite direction now. And it's like, I mean, the outcome is still the same. You defeated Shao Kahn and you survived, but like everyone else was dead. It was just literally Raiden, Sonya, and Johnny
Hmm.
Cage left there. And I was like, "Oh crap! What's going to happen now? Like, where's it all going to go after this?" And then obviously MKX came out, which was weird, which was really cool to see them all fight Shinnok and stuff without the aid of some of the others because they're all obviously on the evil side now.
No, I think he's fantastic as a not necessarily a bad guy, but just not quite as golden, if you will. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Fire God Kang. I think he's cool. He's grand. He's fine, but yeah, just a little bit of color to that. Like Zombie Liu Kang in Deception, I think is the coolest Kang has ever been. You know, in all his 30 years, I think he looks the coolest. He plays the coolest. He's just got this. He's almost got a bit more Mortal Kombat to him than he does traditionally. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
and
he's dope like that. I'm not dissing Kang. I do like Liu Kang. I always have. I just think, yeah, I think he's a little bit too goody good shoes at times, and if you flip that on his head, it really makes him very interesting.
yeah, 100%. Uh, and then let me see. What else is there? I think that was it in terms of TV shows and online TV shows. It was just Defenders of the Realm, Conquest, and Legacy 1 and 2, and of course Rebirth as well. I don't think there was
Mhm.
anything else on top of that. So I suppose we come to pretty much the final little kind of chapter of our podcast now, which is merch and comic books, basically. Now, I've been fairly saddened to not really get a good, proper comic book showcase. I've only really ever been able to get the comics that they brought out for Mortal Kombat X. It was kind of a
Mhm.
pre. It was kind of a prequel to the game. So I made sure I basically went on to there was this comic book website that was doing them, and you were able to get the digital one every time. So anytime I was on break at work, I was able to hop on my phone and read through it, and they were really cool. It was really cool to show you exactly what happened to Goro, and then see Havoc, and then talk about these daggers and stuff, which I think were the Kamidogu and all. It was different, but it was still pretty cool as well to see. So I was very saddened to not be able to actually have any sort of a more like the older comic books from back in the day to see what they were like. So, I mean, I haven't brought it upon myself yet to go looking or to go kind of dive into these things or something, but it will be one of these days that I will track down these comic books and probably be able to read them from page to page and stuff. But what about you? Have you like what was your kind of comic book sort of esque thing that you've had?
Well, first up, the MKX comics I think are spectacular. I think they're absolutely fantastic. I
Mm,
think that is the best Mortal Kombat has ever been outside of the video game,
mm,
by far. I think they get everything right. The characters come across brilliantly. The art style really works. It's not afraid to go over the top at the gore. Like, dude peeled his own face off at the end of the first
yeah.
issue. Like, I love the idea that they brought the blood code into it as an actual story element. I love the fact that you have characters that you wouldn't otherwise see, the likes of Reiko showing up, Havoc. I thought they were absolutely fantastic. I thought they were really good. In fact, if they continued beyond that, I still would have kept reading them for sure. There's actually a scene in one where there's like an army of Shokans marching across that world, and I'm just like, this is terrifying. Could you imagine that? Oh my god! Like these guys are 9 foot tall, man. Um, I've I haven't had the old comics myself, but I do enjoy an occasional Google. So I've read quite a few of them, and these ones were made by Malibu Comics. Now, Malibu Comics, in my head, are most famous for making one issue of Street Fighter, which I'm not sure if you're aware of. They did a Street Fighter 2 comic way back when Street Fighter 2 was hot. And it was so bad, it actually ended with Ken Masters being scalped by by Sagat and
Ouch.
re-finding his scalp. Yeah, re-finding his scalp in the car. And then they had like a prelude for the next issue where they brought in a completely new character that they were going to implement into it, in a Cole Young-esque way. You know, so this particular issue of Street Fighter, the only one that Malibu ever did, was so bad that Capcom themselves stepped in and pulled the plug. So then Malibu ended up writing Mortal Kombat instead. Um, And I do like a few issues here and there, but it has to be kept in mind that these were comic books made around a fighting game that at the time the story conveyed to the player was very loose. You know, we knew the bare essentials of each of the characters. We knew what they were and what they wanted, but that was kind of it because, like, these came out after Mortal Kombat 2. After Mortal Kombat 2, we were educated on the characters, but not hugely so. Not the way we are now, where we could tell you everything about an individual character. Instead, it was more sporadic. It was just we knew from the endings of the arcade runs what happened to the characters, and we knew pretty much from their bios who they were. That's kind of it back in the day. Everything else was kind of made up in your own head. So you got to keep that in mind when reading the Malibu comics, because they do kind of let's say they take some liberties. You know, you have an issue all about Baraka. Baraka is I believe he's kind of defending this human child and trying to deliver them back to their parents, and they're just thinking, well, this is not something Baraka would do.
Mm.
You know, he would happily chew on that child and make a meal of him instead. You know, um, you've got a great, my personal favorite one is a great one about Katana and Melina finding out who and what Melina really is. And it's got a spectacular cover. One of my all-time favorite comic book art covers is it's just the two ladies back to back, but it's so 90s. It's fantastic. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah, you've definitely got to take them with a grain of salt, especially how characters have evolved over time. So sometimes you even see them use weapons that you would not be accustomed to. Like Noob Saibot, for example, shows up. I think Smoke as well. Both of them with Scorpion Spear, which in MK2 as secret characters they would have used, but we now looking back go, that's not their weapon. They wouldn't have used that, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So you've definitely got to look at these comics with you've almost got to look at them through the eyes of someone who's not a Mortal Kombat fan to get the most out of them. You know what I mean? But they corny. They've got some choice one-liners that I think would be up there with Mortal Kombat Annihilation style choice one-liners, but I think they're quite enjoyable.
Absolutely, 100%. And I do hope, obviously, now in the future there are more to be able to purchase. I keep keeping an eye. I keep having to keep an eye out in my local comic book store anyway to see if I can try and get my hands on more. Speaking of my local store, actually, in terms of merch, I've been trying to get, like, I've gotten T-shirts. I've got Shao Kahn's helmet, which is pretty cool, here in the box beside me.
Is
Proper.
that the full-size helmet? Like,
Oh yeah, proper wearable one. I got it
wow.
off. I got it off Etsy. It was a person who built it up for me, and yeah, I could tell you fit it on and fits and all perfectly and all. It's really cool. I have some of the characters from MK11. I got Shao Kahn. I've got Spawn. I've got some of the older style Shaolin monks, Kung Lao and Sub Zero action figures. I have a lot of pop figures. I have the ultimate version of MK9 back in the day. I know over in America it was a book holder. It had Scorpion impaling one side and Sub Zero getting impaled on the other side. Except the one that Europe got was just a little statue
The statue.
of
Yeah,
Scorpion
yeah.
impaling Sub Zero, which was fine. Like, I didn't mind that much. And I want to shout out to Warner Brothers as well. I actually got that for free because I didn't even realize I just asked my work, is there any chance of us getting this in? And head office, they just got it in and it got sent to me, and that was it. They didn't ask any more. I was like, okay, thank you
Happy
so much.
days.
Yeah, so I was very grateful for that. But yeah, no, that's pretty much, I think that's all the merch that I've got. Obviously planning on getting a lot more in due time from what I can. I have my eyes. I've got also, I think I've actually a proper Ermac, like an original like Ermac style full on costume that I used for Halloween there a few years ago in my wardrobe.
Oh, cool.
So I've got the was the mask, the the proper ninja outfit and all as well, which I thought was really cool. And funny enough, I don't know if you know this as well. Do you know of the online um, video Mortal Kombat and ooh, hang on, sorry, the name escapes me. 1 second. Where are we? Where are we? Is it movies? There it is. Mortal Kombat Fate's Beginning. Have you heard of that?
I have not. No.
This was made by Dark Mind Productions, and as far as I know, this was made by a Chris. I think his name. I'm not. I might be butchering the second name, but Chris Barsa.
Hmm.
Have you heard of him?
I have not. No. I'm completely in the dark on this one.
He actually won an award for this Mortal Kombat thing. Let me just see. Is Chris? Let's see if I can find him here. Yes, Barcia, Barcia. He basically he's done a lot of like photography and film stuff over the years and stuff, and he filmed Mortal Kombat Fate's Beginning. Now, back in the day, he was doing a GoFundMe for it. And I obviously kept my eye on it because I wanted it to succeed. I would have loved to seen it. Daniel Pesina was in it. Victoria Simone, she played a really good katana. There were a few other people as well. There was one guy who played a really good Kano. It went through the whole Mortal Kombat 1. I thought it was pretty good for a project as for a thing. And what I'll do is I'll send you the link for it. Later on, Owen.
Oh, please do, yeah.
And anybody watching this on YouTube, I'll actually have the link to it down below as well. He needed something like 200-300 or 200-300 more just to kind of get what he needed to film it, and it was literally like within the last hour. So I kind of I got onto him and I said like, hey man, I see what you're trying to do, amazing. I do hope you get it and all this sort of stuff. And I said to him, I was like, look, I really want you to get this done. I've got some funds that are left over for this, but I don't necessarily need it that bad, so I'm gonna give it to you. And he said to me, he says, "Wow, really?" He says, like if you do that, what I'll do is I'll set up this special like Michael Payne. What was it? When you do the GoFundMe things, there's like these tier systems.
Yeah.
So he set up a particular one, and it was like it was a €300 Michael Payne one, and basically he gifted me Reptile's costume from the movie, Scorpion's costume from the movie. And he said that he'd put my name as like a co-producer type thing, but in the end he didn't. He must have forgot. I have no fault on him for that. Now I don't have any ill will at all for that. I just but it was so cool to receive the official costumes for Reptile and Scorpion in the mail. Those they're in my closet like right now.
That's absolutely awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that's how I actually got to be friends with Victoria Simone. She was actually going to be the voice of my katana in the animations that I was doing because she played katana in the thing. But then her schedule got way too hectic because she's a model / like media buff over in America. So that was no ill will to her. That's like obviously timetables not coinciding and stuff like that, which is fine. And then just to see Daniel Pesina as well being in that as well. So they both got in contact with me saying, hey, I see what you did. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I was like, that's no problem at all. I'm always happy to help out, especially a Mortal Kombat project because Mortal Kombat's close to my own heart and stuff like that. And that's more or less where I got to talk with the likes of Daniel to ask him for like just help with a few future projects. There was a project, I think I told you this, about the project that I was going to do. If anybody knows Dashi XP, he does a lot of Mortal Kombat skits, animations and stuff. And there was one he did with Nightmare Cinemas called Gintaro's Spam Mail. So it was like, send this to your friend or you'll get stomped by Gintaro. And I remember Dashi was just like, man, get this out of here, stupid thing. And he walks off, and then Kentaro smashes through the wall, and then basically, like, does this whole stomp move, and then starts stomping him into the ground. And then that was it. And that kind of had me a little bit of an idea, saying, I kind of want to do something like that, because I was doing animation. Oh, excuse me, at the time. And so I said, I'll do something where it's like you'll get uppercutted, you'll get hammered by Shao Kahn. So it was the same sort of thing, and like the spam mail came in. It's like, oh, send this to 10 friends or you get hammered by Shao Kahn. I was like, man, whatever. And then he came in, he uppercutted me. I went flying up into the air, came back down, and then he started smacking me with a hammer. Again, if you guys want to see, I'll leave the link in the below. Chat for this, but I was hoping, I wanted to do a proper full-on series with a load of different types of characters. So I had in my head, I actually filmed this. I filmed this one, but it never came to fruition because I got so busy. One of them was send this to a friend or you'll get punched in the nuts by Johnny Cage. Of course. And basically I had a friend go, okay, my friend was the one doing this. We filmed him coming out of his house, and Johnny Cage was like on the roof laughing and stuff, and then he like disappeared obviously when he looked back. And then when he got to the green where we play football and all, basically Johnny Cage came out of nowhere and punched him like 50 times in the balls, and he was just gonna drop to his knees, and then that was it basically. And I was hoping to do a real proper big series of send this to someone or this will happen to you by this character. And by the end of it, I was going to have it that Daniel Pesina was the one sending the spam mail to everybody. That was my original plan, like, do you know what I mean? But unfortunately, like as I said, time and work and all got in the way of that, so that didn't unfortunately come to fruition. But I just think it would have been so good if I actually had a bit of time to do something like that. I thought it would have been very funny.
Yeah, no, that sounds absolutely amazing. And Pacino's the kind of guy who'd be on for that as well. He's
Oh,
always up for a bit.
Definitely. He definitely said yeah, but like again to him, I had to apologize to him and say, look, unfortunately, like I've been very busy, so I don't think we can do this. And he was just like, oh, that's a shame. But thanks for asking and all anyway. So he was more than happy to do it.
I believe he just finished up wrapping up would have been a couple of months ago now, filming a fan movie over in Britain as well called Mortal Kombat Legends Never Die. All about in age Johnny Cage. And the movie's not out as of yet. Like I said, it's a fan flick, but it does star Pacina, and I can't wait to see it, man. I reckon it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely, and that's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see that myself. What about you?
If there is a date for it, but
I'll keep our eye out. We'll keep our eye out anyway. So what kind of merch do you have? I think you said to me that you had an MK cabinet, didn't you?
I do. I have Mortal Kombat 2. I have the OG old Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet, which is one of the crown jewels of my geeky collection.
I'm very jealous. Very jealous. Actually, a funny little story about that. Actually, there was an arcade that we had in Arklow years ago when I was a kid. And the guy said to me that he was thinking about getting rid of the Mortal Kombat 2 machine. And I said, can I have it? And he was like, sure. He sure is. Like, I was like, how much do you want for it? And he was like, about £500. And this was when we were still wearing pounds, so you can tell how many years ago this was. So I ran back to my dad and I said, Dad, this guy's going to give me this Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet. And he says, it's only going to cost him £500. And he laughs and he says, only £500. And I was like, well, can I get it? And then he says, he said to me at the time, yes. Because I remember him saying yes. And then the very day your man had organised that we'd go down and collect it and all, I said, come on, Dad, let's go. He goes, go where? I was like, we're going to go down and collect the cabinet. I was like, hey, you are in your shite having that cabinet. I was like, you said I could. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. I bought it off a guy up in Dublin about, it's got to be touching 14 years ago now. I saw it for sale on adverts.ie, believe it or not. And I was like, man, just thinking to myself, if you don't get this now, you'll be kicking yourself for life.
Hmm.
You know, so yeah, bought it off a guy up in Dublin who had a front room full of arcade cabinets. That was his gig. He had this little, almost like a headband with a light on it, the way kind of miners would have it. And he'd flick this on. Then he'd go into the back of all his cabinets, and he could mess around with the wires, and he'd see it all in well light. And I thought that's a cool idea. This guy knows what he's up to. But he was selling off the MK2 cab because he said that it was a little after his day. He said that all his arcade stuff would have been kind of previous generation, kind of 80s stuff, where Mortal Kombat 2 he bought on a whim, but he kind of played it more on Super Nintendo back in the day that he did in the arcade, so it didn't really fit into his arcade room because of that, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'll definitely take that off your hands. Thanks very much. So yeah, that's my favorite piece of merch. I've got the MK9 box, as you mentioned earlier on, with the Sub-Zero and Scorpion figures. If we're going into the games themselves, I have a lot of them. I have a thing about buying them on multiple consoles. So I've got a ton of MK games as well, spanning from uh, obvious ones like your Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 on Super Nintendo to like Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the DS, which comes with Puzzle Combat, for example. Um, there's also got a couple of action figures. I've got a really old Melina that I bought back in about 2004 who is impossibly shaped. Like no actual human would be shaped like that kind of shape.
Right.
But she's good. She actually has the removable mask, and underneath that, she has the Tarkatan teeth, which is kind of dope. I've got a very, very large MKX Scorpion. Smaller ones then for Kotal Khan, Katana, and I believe Kung Lao. Um, so I've got a handful more of those. I've got, as you mentioned, pops. I've got, I believe, the whole fourth run of MK pops, the MKX pops, except for Liu Kang. Unfortunately, I missed Liu Kang. Um, and if we want to go really silly, I've got a bunch of MK tattoos as well, if that counts as merch, all along my arm. So I'm not sure if that counts as actual merch, but there you go. Um, there's a few other bits and pieces that I've kind of been gifted over the years. Like a friend of mine who I fight in tournaments with has given me little MK9 like button badges. I know there's definitely a Jax one, there's a Finish him one, and a couple of others. Uh, Official MK9 World Tour T-shirt, which I still have. It never fit me, so I've never worn it. It's a little too small for me, but it's a cool thing to have,
Hmm.
So I still get that in the wardrobe. Official MK headbands and stuff like that that make you feel a little bit like Liu Kang, random bits and pieces, tons of them. The reverse on that is I've sent Daniel Pasida one of my own badges from my radio show. We all got gifted after running through COVID. The radio station sent us all little button badges of our own shows and masks of Flirt FM. And I loved it. I thought it was so cool. So I sent a few of these badges out to people that I'd worked with through Flirt FM, like
Hmm.
so sent one to, for example, Shelley Blonde from Tomb Raider, sent another one to Daniel Pacina and a few other people here and there, just as little kind of thank yous for giving me their time. They don't have
Yeah.
to give me their time, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
just wanted to have a little way of saying, look, I do appreciate you being so damn nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I sent one to Daniel Pacina, and he sent me back a video. He popped it on his Twitter account and his Instagram account and stuff of him with the biggest sword I've ever seen doing a couple of moves in his dojo. And the camera zoomed in then, and he's got the button badge for Galway Gamer on his chest. And
Ah.
that's something that that blows my mind as a lifelong Mortal Kombat fan. That absolutely melts my heart. I think it's incredible.
That's amazing. That's so cool. It's always great to see that sort of little video, and then you see your logo or something in the background or on the person in itself. That would have just been very cool. Do you have that? Do you have that saved?
Absolutely,
Obviously, yeah.
Sorry,
You obviously have that saved. I say, yeah.
I have it on the phone. Yeah, I will send it your way later on. Yeah. But yeah, that's just one of those little things that it makes Mortal Kombat feel like a community. When you have people like that who were involved in it, who are just so giving with their time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Well, wow, 3 hours and 40 minutes of non-stop Mortal Kombat talk. I tell you, huh? Told you we could talk. We could talk about MK. That's what I mean. We could talk about Mortal Kombat till the cows come home. That'd be never like. Do you know what I mean? But guys, we're coming towards the end of our podcast anyway. But I just wanted to do a few little shout outs anyway. Well, thank you to Petso for jumping on and helping us and talking with us more Mortal Kombat. As I said, we will obviously be doing a lot more Mortal Kombat stuff in the future when we find out what the next game is or what their plans are and stuff like that. And I did kind of put it into Owen's head, and we probably put it into Petso's head as well, about maybe one of these days going over to Chicago, and meeting a lot of the Mortal Kombat legends themselves. They have a big thing going on the end of this month, but obviously it's like a little too early. Like we only just came out of COVID. A lot of us don't have any money at the moment, so we want to make sure we want to do a bit of saving and stuff like that. And sure, the lads are up for it. We'd head on over. We'd make a vlog. We go to a lot of the main key places where Mortal Kombat came to life. There's like the Mortal Kombat 3 bridge is over there. There's the diner where Ed Boon came up with a few characters. There's NetherRealm Studios itself. We could probably go and take a picture of the door if we're not allowed into the place or something. Do you know what I mean? But it would be pretty cool to if we were allowed to go and just have a look around or something like that. But I think it's all, I don't know, I think it's all hush hush really, isn't it?
NetherRealm Studios, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I don't reckon they'd like to let the likes of us in there. Yeah.
Or even just into the reception area. Like we wouldn't have to go anywhere past the second door, but even just standing in the building would be pretty cool, if it's possible. Like if not, it'd be fine. We'll just take some pictures from outside or something. It'd be really cool. But even just to stand beside the place and see Ed, be like, "Hey Ed," but
it'd be amazing.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, if I've always said if there's one person I've ever wanted to meet personally and shake his hand, it's Ed Boon. And even if we were able to, so I also even want to shout out the original team of Mortal Kombat. Without these guys, we'd never have Mortal Kombat. It's Ed Boon, John Tobias, John Vogel, and Dan Ford, and those four started it. But shouts out as well to the entire team that has come and gone since those four, all the way up until now. You guys are the ones that make the games that we know and love and can't get enough of, and we do hope that Mortal Kombat still is around 30 odd years later, or even longer than that. And I want you guys to keep blowing our minds that you do almost every game, regardless if it's a new character, if it's a new story, if it's a new fatality or way to finish them, that sort of thing. I want to thank Owen for popping on, helping and talking Mortal Kombat and all tonight as well. Want to thank obviously you people listening. It's all for you guys. If you all wanted to chat Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, definitely leave us. Like if you want to answer any of the questions that we did today, like if what's your favorite Mortal Kombat character, what's your favorite game, lash them all in the comments below. I'll definitely be looking them over. Anyway, Owen, do you have anyone you want to shout out or anything like that?
Shout out to the MK community, for sure. Ireland has a small but tight MK community that push each other to the limit. You got the obvious players, the big players like the likes of Lara, the likes of Irish Mantis. You've got One Man Three Letters. Big shout out to my homeboy Original Razor as well. Of course, big shout out to all the old school MK heads as well. your Daniel Pesina, your Anthony Marquez, your Catalan Rodriguez, Ogre, and all those who we saw on screen and stole our hearts. You know what I mean? And a big shout out to yourself, Mr. Payne, for letting me steal the bike with you here tonight. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's no problem. Always loving to talk a bit of Mortal Kombat, whether it be about anything and everything these days. And it's just like, it's one of these things that we just can't get enough of. We'll hopefully be playing well until we're dead, and that's a great little site there. But no, 100%, yeah. Like I would hopefully now, even though we didn't really like the last movie of Mortal Kombat, I'm still very excited for the next one to pop in to see what they're gonna do, what kind of way they're gonna go about it. Same with the games. Always waiting for the next game to come out. Again, thank you to the entire team. Thank you to the community. Thank you to Petzo. Thank you to yourself, Owen. Thank you to
Thank you, sir.
all things Mortal Kombat as much as you can. And yeah, I think that's about wraps it up, really. I don't think I have anything left in my notes that we want to talk about. Unless you have anything, maybe you want to chime in real quick, if anything.
Not that I could think of offhand. No, outside of you bring up a topic, I could be there for days, but I can't think of anything offhand. No, I can't, sir.
We've pretty much I did have a plan to go through each Mortal Kombat game individually, but obviously we were stuck a bit for time, so I kind of just decided we'll just talk about the games, and we'll obviously talk about all the games themselves. Like we talked about MK1, 2, 3, Mythology Sub-Zero, which was a really cool side scroller game that they brought out, and someone actually I know is recreating that Mythology Sub-Zero in the new Unreal Engine. I've actually played a bit of the demo before as well. They've only got the first part where you're fighting Scorpion and all. It was really cool. Definitely something to look forward to in the future. MK4 Gold Special Forces we don't talk about. Deadly Alliance, Deception, Shaolin Monks, Armageddon, Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. We don't talk about the Mortal Kombat 9, which was just originally Mortal Kombat because it was pretty much a kind of a reboot. Mortal Kombat X, Mortal Kombat 11, and then obviously the movies. Mortal Kombat Journey Begins, Mortal Kombat 1992, 1995 was the movie, wasn't it?
Sneaky shout out to Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance on GBA, which plays completely differently, and it is very, very strange. And if you haven't played it, check that one out. It's a different kettle of fish.
There you go. And let's see, Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie, Mortal Kombat 2021 movie, Legend, Scorpion Revenge, and Battle of the Realms. TV shows, Defenders of the Realm, Mortal Kombat Conquest, Mortal Kombat Legacies, Season 1 and 2. And just your other merch and comic books then to go into it. So that's pretty much a lot of all things MK that we had on the list to talk about tonight. So guys, that would be the end of our podcast. I do again just another thank you for everyone to listening. Thank you to all who tuned in. Thank you to you guys for chiming in and giving us your thoughts for your past 30 years of Mortal Kombat. And here's to another 30 years of more Mortal Kombat. Guys, you've been wonderful. You've been amazing. You've been flawless. Thank you so much. And we shall see you all in the next stream. Bye. You can say goodbye, Oh, actually, before we go, actually, tell the people where they can find you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. For anyone who didn't know me, I go by the Galway Gamer. I am a radio presenter on Flirt FM 101.3 in Galway. I do a weekly gig in there from 2 to 3 on a Thursday. We're talking video game reviews, we're talking video game soundtracks, interviews with absolutely anybody and everybody. A number of Mortal Kombat heads have been on the show over the years. We've had people from Tomb Raider, we've had Charles Martinet, for example, the voice of Super Mario. Just last week we had Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who voices Tails in the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and also in a ton of Sonic the Hedgehog games and Sonic Boom as well. So we have all sorts of people coming through on the Galway Gamer on Flood FM each week at 2 p.m. Like I said, Flood FM 101.3, you probably won't get it too far outside of Galway City, but you can pick it up on floodfm.ie. If you want to keep up with me and my video gaming shenanigans as well, you can do so via Facebook. That is facebook.com/Galway Gamer. You can catch me on Twitter at The Galway Gamer, and then on Instagram it's at The Galway Gamer FM. There's also a YouTube channel if interviews are your gig. Put interviews up on every once in a while, because I'll be honest, I'm not a video guy, so they don't get up there as often as I'd like them to, but simply search your name on there.
Perfect stuff. And again, just to say again, thank you for Petso from Allcast Irish Gamers. You guys, you can find them on Twitter as Allcast Irish G. You can also cast them on Twitter as Allcast Irish Gamers. They're basically Google Allcast Irish Gamers. You've got them all. They're very well known over in Ireland. They do a lot of the gaming conventions. They're hosts on the stage. They do amazing work and stuff like that. So Petso and Mignon, definitely make sure you guys give them a shout out, and make sure you guys go follow and stuff. And also you can just catch me at everything at the Arcane Pain on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and all sorts. So guys, again, this is our final actual goodbye. I'm not going to start taking you any more longer. Guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all